You're such a fantastic moron.
Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Salante, everybody. Wish you all a very happy St. Patrick's Day. Welcome to a special St. Patty's Day Sunday edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobler once again. You got to unmute your microphone there.
Eren Gobra!
There you go. All right. Well, timing needs work. Maybe next year.
Maybe next year. Maybe next year I'll nail it.
Yeah, Russell was busy washing his dishes during the countdown, so you didn't hear any of my cool Irish playlists. Which
no, I did. I did. How do you think I knew when to come back?
Oh, you keep your phone on,
right?
So you watch it there, so you know. No, there you go.
Yeah. Well, normally I'm not doing that. As I was telling Keaton before, for years I've only been making like shit that came out of a Blue Apron box. So my timing is off. Like I made a stir fry tonight and I totally miscalculated.
His timing is off. Yes.
Yes. I hate leaving dishes in the sink.
I did a lasagna, so we are not very festive in our food choices.
We are not the same.
Lasagna.
We are not the same.
Yeah.
Hang on. You didn't. It was pre-cooked, did you say?
Yeah, I got a Trader Joe's lasagna that you just put in the oven and it's ready in an hour. When we do shows, am I going to make a lasagna on a show night? That's a huge project to make a lasagna.
It is.
Yeah. No, we got to be on here by 6:30. I don't have time.
Was it real lasagna or that vegetarian bullshit?
No, it's real lasagna. It's actually very good. Like the Trader Joe's frozen meals are actually really good. Like the Indian stuff is good, the Asian stuff is good, and like the frozen lasagna, it's great. $7. You can't make a lasagna for $7.
Does Tucker get a cut of that?
Yeah, right. Exactly. We got 983 in the YouTube chat, 729 on Rumble. We know what that means. Beautiful to see you all here tonight. It's been a few days. We were last with you guys on Thursday. We are back here on our regular Sunday night time slot. Just a reminder, folks, we will be having our post-show Q&A over on Rumble after the show. We also have one segment that we're going to be doing over there, which we'll talk about when the time comes. So we will be switching to Rumble in a couple hours, but we got plenty of show to do between now and then. We always start out with a little small talk, a little personal story, but I'm going to incorporate my personal story of the week into one of our segments because it is relevant. It's the story I told Russell about Subway, but don't step on it because that's going in the Bill Maher segment, just so you know. Because that's relevant.
Which Subway? What? Oh, right.
The Subway sandwich shop. Anyway, I don't want to
That's right. That's right. I'm just going to say this is completely unrelated to what you're going to talk about, but a lot of Americans might not know this. There's so much sugar in the buns and the bread in these American chains that they're classified as cake in Europe.
Right.
So a Subway sandwich is cake because of the bread.
Even Subway.
McDonald's hamburger, it's cake because of the bun.
Interesting.
Like a Big Mac is cake.
Big Mac, that makes sense, but a Subway sub roll, I guess that makes sense too.
No, yeah,
that
man.
Makes sense too.
It's like 6.5 grams of sugar or something.
Yeah,
they would classify that as cake. Actually, we had this conversation way back when I was talking about how shitty American food is, and I mentioned how you couldn't get bread without sugar. And some of our viewers pointed out, well, you can't make bread without sugar. And they're right. But it's a little sugar as a catalyst, not what we dump in there.
Right. They call this added sugar.
Right.
Added sugar here in the West. All right, let's jump right in because we have a big show tonight. Lots of stuff tonight. Really terrific show that we're going to do for you guys here. We want to start out with a little bit of very alarming video from Dayton, Ohio. This was Donald Trump's rally last night, and we all want you to be very outraged by this piece of sound that we're about to show you right now.
Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole... That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it.
Okay, so there is the piece of sounds that Biden-Harris HQ really seized upon. Trump, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. Keith Olbermann chimes in. This is a terrorist threat, FBI. Detain him as he leaves the stage, after which America doesn't give a shit where you keep him. Here's Joe Scarborough. Donald Trump's America, and he is proud of it, promised another bloodbath if he loses again. Here's Lawrence Tribe. This is a Harvard professor, by the way. Harvard professor. Heads I win.
Yeah, that don't mean what it used to.
Yeah. Tails I lead a bloodthirsty mob. Nice little country you've got there. It'd be a shame if something happened to it. Now, Harvard professor, he knows how to read. He knows how to put quotes in context, right? Surely he wouldn't be taking the quote out of context. Let's see the full context of this quote. I'm sure it will corroborate their story.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Lawrence Tribe contend that the Colorado case had legal merit to kick Trump off the ballot?
That would not surprise me at all. I'm not sure, but certainly seems like a take of his. Anyway, let's see his reading comprehension skills at work. Let's check the full context here. I'm sure he got it right, Harvard man that he is.
China now is building a couple of massive plants where they're going to build the cars in Mexico and they think that they're going to sell those cars into the United States with no tax at the border. Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. Now, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars. They're building massive factories. A friend of mine, all he does is build car manufacturing plants. He's the biggest in the world.
Well, it's okay. So it sounds to me like he wasn't really threatening a bloody revolution. Sounds to me like
talking about
bloodbath.
Economics. Yeah,
we're gonna take it in the ass economically. Is basically what
which is a very common context in which to use that term. They use that on Wall Street all the time. It was a bloodbath on Wall Street today. It's very common to use that in an economic context specifically. It's not even like a weird usage of that word.
Even in a political context, how many times did we hear heading into the 2018 midterms? Well, it's going to be a bloodbath. The 2022 midterms. Oh, it's going to be a bloodbath for Democrats this year. Yeah,
it's not like he said, if we don't get this deal, it's going to be shiny black boots for everyone. I tell you.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
That would be a little odd.
That would be a little alarming. Yes, then you'd have a point. Here's the Biden-Harris campaign statement on Trump promising bloodbath if he loses.
These fucking people. They're really swine.
It's really insane. Tonight, Donald Trump said there would be a bloodbath if he wasn't elected, and that if he lost, there would be no more elections. After opening the general election by meeting with authoritarian leaders, I guess he's talking about Viktor Orban, and rallying alongside conspiracy
member of NATO,
theorists.
Viktor Orban, you mean?
Yeah, NATO ally Viktor Orban. Donald Trump continues to praise dictators, promise to pardon political violence, and launch racist attacks against black and brown Americans. What racist attack did he launch against black and brown
Which
Americans?
ones?
He
Which
said
ones? I mean, I could pull up
night,
a lot of clips of Joe Biden launching racist attacks against black and brown Americans.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything recently. Not to say he's never said anything, but what in this campaign? Was there a new thing I missed? Maybe. I don't know. It's why last night, Trump's own former Vice President, Mike Pence, who Trump supporters called to hang for not overturning the election, came out against Trump. This is who Donald Trump is, a loser who gets beat by over 7 million votes, and instead of appealing to a wider mainstream audience, doubles down on threats of political violence. He wants another January 6th. Well, he doesn't want another January 6th. I'm sure he'd rather just win. But the American people are going to give him another electoral defeat this November. Don't count on it, because they continue to reject his extremism, his affection for violence, and his thirst for revenge. So that's the official campaign statement. We saw the context here, but Politico. Trump says country faces bloodbath if Biden wins in November. Let's read a little bit of this here. Donald Trump on Saturday said it will be a bloodbath for the United States if he doesn't win in November. Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath. That's going to be the least of it, Trump said during a rally near Dayton, Ohio. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. This is my highlighting here. While it was unclear what the former president meant exactly, the remarks came as Trump was complaining about the automobile industry. He then returned
that's what you call plausible deniability. See, right. we mentioned the context.
We didn't exactly know. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't exactly know what he meant. I mean, we're putting that in there. We're not hiding that. But look at this. So he says, while it was unclear what the former president meant exactly, the remark came as Trump was complaining about the automobile industry. He then returned to telling the crowd that China would not be able to sell any vehicles imported into the United States if he wins re-election. He returned to telling the crowd.
Yes.
As if
this was a non sequitur.
Exactly.
In the middle of that speech.
As if he was talking about cars in China, and then he took a quick detour. Oh, by the way, if I don't win, there's going to be violence in the country. Anyway, now back to my point about China. No, the bloodbath was part of the point about China and the cars. But they say he then returned to telling the crowd that China would not be able to sell any vehicles imported into the U.S. And then, obviously, they flesh this out.
Well,
this is barking at the moon. Trump frequently paints a dark picture of the country as he lays out his case against President Joe Biden. Yeah, we don't need to read the rest of that. You get the point.
And then they're going to go on the air, and they're going to wring their hands about why the public doesn't trust them and why it lands when Trump calls them the enemy of the people. Oh, we're journalists. We're out there reporting the truth, and people are just, it's the education system. It's TV. It's the internet. It's fucking you. It's you. They can see you. They can see what you're doing in broad daylight. The only people who don't see it are the non-player characters who are your only remaining audience, and they all are sitting around nursing homes watching this shit, reading this stuff.
You mentioned non-player characters because Elon Musk tweets out, easy to tell who is an NPC today. Bloodbath is the quote of the day.
Yep.
Now, here's an interesting thing.
That's exactly how that goes, man.
He clips the speech with the full context, and then Brian Krasenstein, who is a very rare breed. So the Krasenstein brothers are shit libs who are very pro Elon because they have very high engagement X accounts, and so they make a lot of money off of X. And so they are both shit libs and Elon ass kissers. Very few of those exist in the wild, but there's some of them. So once Elon puts out that, hey, actually, everything you're being told about this bloodbath quote is a lie, Krasenstein, despite being a total lib and totally in the tank for Joe Biden, puts this out. As someone who thinks Trump is a danger to our republic if he wins in 2024, I have to say that the entire narrative around his bloodbath remarks are unfair. While I think it's a bad word to use given the circumstances and how it can be construed, it will be the media's fault if people take his words and skew them and use violence, not his fault. Trump has done some horrible things, in my opinion, but the speech he is currently being attacked for is not one of them. Here are his full remarks, so then he shows the same video clip that Elon posted. Here's Ian Bremmer, who's a pretty big lib who doesn't like Trump at all, but he even says the Trump bloodbath headlines are disingenuous and embarrassing. So you see some of these libs had a little bit of integrity, but not this one. I don't know who this one is, but I love this. Stop telling me to take Trump's bloodbath in context. The January 6th was the context. Stop telling me I have to tell the truth. God damn it, if I want to think he was threatening violence, I have the right to think that, whether you like it or not. You're not going to make me change my opinion based on new evidence. Not me. Not me.
Trump
Yeah.
is a threat of violence by definition.
By
mister.
definition.
By
Exactly.
definition. It doesn't matter what the context is. The context is Donald Trump.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is very similar. I remember in the 2016 campaign when he was accused of mocking the disabled reporter because he made a certain thing with his hands, which I'm not going to do because it is in poor taste. But there was video of him mocking other people that exact same way. He was mocking Ted Cruz at one point because Ted Cruz was flustered and confused. And so Trump did the exact same impression of Ted Cruz that he did of this guy. And I pointed that out. I said, hey, listen, it's in poor taste to do that, but he clearly did not single this man out for his disability and mock him deliberately for that. And at the time, this was back during the shitposting days on Facebook. This is where Russ and I met. We had people respond to me, A, why are you defending Trump? Which, again, I'm not defending Trump, just pointing out this is obvious propaganda. Because this was part of the red pilling process of realizing that while I disagree with much of what Republicans say, including what some of their critiques of the media, that was when I learned they were correct, that the media was in the tank for the Democrats, right? Now, some of them are wrong about why, like Michael Savage calls Wolf Blitzer a Bolshevik. He's a Bolshevik. He's a communist, die-in-the-wool communist. No, Wolf Blitzer is not a communist, but he is biased, right? So anyway, point. so
Fiery Wolf Blitzer.
Yeah, fiery communist.
Intellectual of the revolution.
yeah. Exactly.
Leading theorist of the Bolsheviks.
Right. So and then I had one person say, well, so are you saying Trump is a friend to disabled people? I said, I'm not saying anything. I'm saying what is being presented as news is obvious propaganda, and that you shouldn't do that, because if you have a case against Trump that you're trying to prosecute, you should prosecute it by telling the truth, because when you do this kind of shit, you only feed into his line that the media are dishonest and that they are the enemy of the people. And of course, I happen to believe he's correct about that. But if you want to prove otherwise, maybe you shouldn't be such brazen liars. But they are. And this is the latest example of just absolute bald-faced lying.
It's incredible. It's incredible because unlike some of their deception, or quite a lot of it, they got enough wiggle room for plausible deniability for somebody who's inclined to accept their framing. There's just no way. That's why the person responded that way. So we have these fake monks, and they're all over the place now. They're in many cities, but we have them in New York. And so I call them out whenever I see them. If I see somebody getting sucked in, they're fake. He's a con artist. And I did that once, and a woman said, it's up to me whether I want to believe that he's real.
Right.
That's what that tweet is.
Oh, yeah.
The context is January 6th. Okay. But they're lying about this.
Right. They're clearly lying about this. Isn't that the important thing? Isn't that the operative thing? No. And it's funny how they will just be so confident to make the same mistake again, because disabled reporter bit was an example. They got called out on that, but they mostly got away with it until Election Day, when they didn't, because you realize all these Trump criticisms of them landed more than they said. And I saw some people in the chat, so are you saying he didn't do the hand stuff? No, he did. What I'm saying is that's his impression of a confused person, which is extremely distasteful. Like, I'm not saying, he's not an asshole for doing that, but he clearly does that to everybody who he's trying to make fun of, who gets flustered and caught in a lie. Their narrative was that he singled this particular person out because he knew he had a disability and was doing it specifically to him for that reason. And that was obviously not true, based on half a dozen other videos of him making fun of other people without a disability the exact same way. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying he's a nice guy for doing it. That's why I'm not showing it to you, because it's in poor taste, right? But it clearly wasn't what they said it was. That's my point.
Well, this is almost becoming Taibbi's life's work. He's done a lot of writing about how the press made the fatal error after Trump won that anything goes. That they made the calculus. They're stopping Hitler.
Exactly.
They are the German press in the 1930s, and this is the moment of crisis. And are they going to be the German press that sometimes? And they would often show articles like this to justify that the way they were reporting on Trump. They would show articles of some German press who say, don't worry about Hitler so much. Well, I mean, sure, it's exactly the same thing. It's exactly the same circumstances. I mean, just because you can pull that's like you always hear people, no matter what batshit crazy cause they take up, they always think they're on the right side of history and they'll invoke that. You're on the wrong side of history. What about all the people who were on the cutting edge who turned out to be on the wrong side of history? It's not like every new movement ends up being the right side of history. In fact, quite the opposite. You see a lot of communes around, bell bottoms, right? Most movements end up being on the wrong side of history. So, you just look at how they approach Trump, and how can you be shocked that you've completely lost the public when you made a decision that you don't have to tell the truth anymore when you report?
Exactly. Well said. Christos says, yo, Christos, how are you? Love and peace, baby. Love and peace to you, Christos. Happy St. Patrick's Day to all of our Irish dissidents. All right, we are top 100 news and politics podcast in Ireland, so we want to thank our Irish brothers and sisters for their support and for your country's admirable stance on the issue of our day. Abiding, thanks for the 99 cents. Appreciate
Thank you, Abiding.
that. D. Wortham, trying to think of an appropriate title for Dennis Kucinich. What about progressive dandy? I mean, I don't know. It doesn't strike me as I see where you're going with that, but yeah, I think we could do a little better. Not bad. Workshopping. It's a work in progress. Hey, my, says Eric Montag. Hey, Eric. All right, let's go on to this segment. This is a brief segment because, we obviously gave Trump some airtime, and equal opportunity offenders that we are. We want to check in on Joe Biden. He was making a house call, apparently. He's now I guess, what is he, does he have a dental practice that he opened up? Or was this a rally? This was a meet and greet, a town hall of some kind?
I think he bought another family fried chicken.
Maybe something like that. But here he is.
Hillary brought the hot sauce.
Yeah, right. On the trail, hard at work on the trail, and I guess he was making some comments, and he decided to wrap up and take some questions from the press, but not so fast. His team shut that down in a panic, in a frenzy. Can I take a couple questions? Let's take some questions.
Thank you so much.
Folks, thank you very much for coming. Thanks for all your questions. That's everybody. That's everything. Here, now I'll let you hear the real audio. The first is a little hard to see, but it's very faint. They should have subtitled this. He says at the very beginning, can we take some questions?
Yeah, listen. Then we'll talk about it.
We're going to take a few questions. Thank you, Press. Thank you so much. Back in the vehicles. Back to the cars.
Back to the cars.
Thank you, Press. We're happy to walk calls. Vehicles are this way. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. We
The
gotta
guy
go.
opens the umbrella.
All right. So my interpretation here is the girl who said we're going to take questions is a new hire, and they didn't let her in on the command to never let him take questions. And she's still like the way she was like, we're going to take some questions. She's still kind of naive and happy to be there. Look at her. She's very excited to have this job.
Yeah, in the lower right-hand corner. She's the one who first gives the green light. Okay, we're going to take some questions.
Yeah, they forgot to give her the memo.
We're going to take a few questions. Thank you, Press. Thank you so much. Back in the vehicles.
And these are the pros. These are the pros. She's like an intern, or she's at the bottom of the ladder.
Thank you.
Yeah, they shut that down. They're giving her a talking to. They're like, listen, we shoot him up with the good shit if we're going to take questions. Okay, we didn't do that this afternoon. You don't let him take questions until that is pre-approved before the event. We don't let this guy open his fucking mouth unless we are 90% sure we know what is going to come out, because the other 10% of the time, it's not good. Believe me, not good.
Believe me, not good. And they'll tell you that there's nothing wrong with Biden.
Yeah, right.
Have you ever seen a staff behave this way around a president who he said he wanted to take questions? That's why she said we're going to take some questions. He said he wanted to take questions.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be the president. This fucking team of like barely out of sorority hazing PR people he has out of there make decisions for the president of the United States about whether he can speak. And there's nothing to see here. Nothing wrong with this guy.
Yeah, this is the most powerful person in the world. When does a candidate, not even a presidential candidate, when does a gubernatorial candidate, somebody running for Congress, for mayor, since when does any candidate not get to decide whether or not they take questions after an event or do a talk back? Who defers to their staff? Hey, are we taking any questions? The fact that he even has to ask that, are we taking questions, shows that he's being so micromanaged, which reflects, obviously, the lack of confidence that the team has in him. This wasn't the first time this week where he's asked his team, hey, are we taking questions? Are we doing a talk back? It's one thing if you got 8 events in a day and you got to make time to the next one, but this was a hangout. This was clearly a thing where there weren't that many people there. It's not going to take that long. You take 5-6 minutes, answer a few questions. No, they can't.
Anything can happen. They're afraid he's going to do a McConnell and freeze one of these days, which if I were on his staff, I would be afraid of that, that he's just going to go blank on stage one day. How are you going to talk around that? At least when he mumbles some shit, you can say, well, he was actually talking about very delicate trade negotiations. That's what he was referring to. Wait, you can't do anything with a blank stare.
No. And they're probably a little nervous now, too. We're going to talk about Chuck Schumer's sort of pivot on Netanyahu later in the show, but things are kind of tense in that department now. They don't know if he's going to run his mouth and say something about Netanyahu that they're not going to be able to walk back. Like, this is just clearly a guy who they don't trust on a hot mic right now. And how is he going to run a campaign like this? How? I don't buy it. I'm sorry. I know people are saying, well, now they're going to stick with him. I just can't see it. Just look at the clip we played earlier of Trump and Biden. I mean, it's no contest. The election's over. Absent any deep state intervention, it's over. How can he possibly catch up to Trump? Trump's already out way in front of the polls. Big leads in a lot of very important swing states for Democrats. How's he going to come back? He can't campaign. He can't even take questions at a house party.
However, after watching that, I'm more convinced that if that is the plan, his team doesn't know about it. At least not the people on camera in that segment.
Yeah, no, that would be that.
They think they're running a campaign. They definitely feel like it's their job to hide the fact that the president of the United States is mentally incompetent.
Yeah,
and that's how they're going to get him over the finish line.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right. It's above their pay grade to know, and I don't think they do. I think right now his team is playing like they're in it to win it, but I just don't see it, man. I mean, you just look at those two clips, side by side. It's just going to be too brutal. Because let's keep it sane. Thanks to the $1.99, vegetable oils in American food are hidden killers too. Yeah, a lot of that shitty oil too. That's true.
Listen, man, one of the reasons I was cooking, I already said, so I've mentioned this before. So when I quit smoking to balance out basically my neurochemistry, I worked out 7 days a week, which kids at home don't do that. So I had to stop working out for like a year to recover. Now I just started again. I put on 15 pounds after I quit working out. When I went out on the road for the last 2 months, I put on another 10 just from eating fucking restaurant food, just from not
Especially New Orleans restaurant food.
Well, not just that. I mean, I was everywhere. LA. Yeah. I mean, all right. London. We're not going to talk about that.
Yeah.
We're not, I'm going to get, I start talking about the food in London. I'm going to get the 1,000-yard stare of the Vietnam vet. Right. But yeah, I mean, obviously New Orleans, but no, man, just eating restaurant food. When the pandemic hit, I lost 13 pounds just from not eating at restaurants.
Yeah, just from cooking.
I was in my house, obviously getting less exercise because I'm a tour guide walking around.
Right.
And being in my house, just not eating restaurant food. That's all the shit that they put in that. I've noticed even when you think you're eating healthy restaurant food,
Oh no, because they load it up
There's
with
still
butter
a bunch
and salt.
of crap in it.
Butter
Exactly.
and salt are huge restaurant ingredients. Yeah, even like a lot of white meat chicken, they'll brine it, to make it a little more tender, which doesn't add a lot of sodium, but it's something. And then they put a lot of salt and butter in there. Yeah, all kinds of stuff. Scott George, we have a really big show. Ed Sullivan, that's right. I was thinking of that. Russell,
I ran a show for a while called the Dead Sullivan Show.
That's right.
The idea was it was the reanimated corpse of Ed Sullivan hosting
a variety
show.
You got that cowbell handy? We got a nice donation here from Green Bob. Thank you, Green Bob. That's very kind of you, my friend. Appreciate that. Thank you for that. Folks, we got 2,347 of you guys in here on the YouTube chat, and we got 1,250 over on Rumble. Round of applause for Jake in the booth this evening. Field and Rumble rants for us. Thank you, Jake. Derek P., the media serving Kool-Aid with more sugar than any Subway sandwich could offer. Yes, indeed. Okay, Dan. Thank you for the $19.99. That's very kind of you. As a brown guy, fairly new to American politics, I jumped on the Democrats' good guys nonsense. This Gaza war really has been a gut punch. Yes, for a lot of people it has. You're not alone. Can't vote for Genocide Joe, and thank you both for being a blanket of comfort. Well, thank you, Dan. That's very kind of you. And, yep, we sympathize. We've been there. Most of us have been there in the audience, I would assume. Can't speak for you guys, but a lot of people in this space have been. Most
of us. I was taking a little walk around the neighborhood earlier, and I ran into a guy doing his petition to get on the ballot for like state senate for Harlem, which I guess that's the seat that opened up because Bill Perkins died. I guess it's that seat. And I say, "You're running as a Democrat?" He was like, "Yeah," and I was like, "Yeah, well, I don't do Democrats." He's like, "Well, I'm just running on their line," and I was like, "Well, do you support Joe Biden?" He said, "No." I said, "How you think that's going to fly with the Democrats?"
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah.
And man, this guy had, if it's real, I'm going to look him up. He had a very impressive resume. He apparently is an attorney in the Department of Justice now. He's been a firefighter, and he was in the electricians union. He was 60 years old. He looked like much younger. But I asked, well, so what do you think about the wars? He was like, I don't support either of them. Like, you think you're getting away with that in a Democratic primary, man?
That's a heavy lift.
I almost felt bad for him because he seems sincere.
Right.
I'm just like, well, what are you doing, man? Like, what are you doing? Don't you know they're going to eat you alive?
Yeah. I wish
I
more
signed his
realized
petition.
that.
I mean, hey, your funeral, man.
Yeah, right, exactly. What can I do? All right, folks, let's go to segment number 3. Bill Maher was on the air on Friday, plugging along on Real Time, and his new rule monologue, which is titled Saddie Issues, is about as out of touch as you'd expect. We have the first minute of it. Let's take a listen.
I've been thinking a lot lately about a puzzle many are struggling with. Why are Biden's approval ratings so low when things are generally pretty good? And of course,
why are Biden's approval ratings so low when I'm so rich?
Well, you know what? You're joking, but really, that's pretty much his formulation.
Yeah, that is
very often. He had that. Who was that with? Was that who was he? Who was he interviewing?
Well, that was Marianne, right?
It was Marianne, right?
I don't
Where
go
he said,
to Skid Row.
I
Things seem
don't
great.
go to Skid Row.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you wouldn't notice. I mean, having just been out to LA, yeah, it's weird and it's creepy because people are all in their cars anyway. But I was taking public transportation, so I was seeing like the street life on the sidewalks. But it's very weird. It's not like New York, because New York, you got 100 people on the sidewalk and you got the 2 homeless people. There you got the 2 homeless people and nobody else on the sidewalk.
Right, because it's not a walk in town.
Right.
All right, let's start this over.
I've been thinking a lot lately about a puzzle many are struggling with. Why are Biden's approval ratings so low when things are generally pretty good? Now, of course, there are problems. America's a big place, but wages are rising.
It's a big
Unemployment is negligible. The stock
big
market
place
is
full of people who don't make $20 million a year or whatever I make for this show.
soaring. We somehow brushed off both the Trump presidency and the pandemic. Yes, inflation persists for a lot of things, but, you know, an actual good, nice-sized TV now costs $60. Who gets credit for that?
What are you talking about? Nice size TV for $60? What are you talking about? I have a monitor. When my son, this was last year, about a year and a half ago. You will recall this, Russell, and some of the people who've been with us for a while.
Yes.
He knocked the laptop off at the
OGs
counter.
will remember that.
Yeah, and knocked my screen. So I had to get an external monitor to do a few shows with. That monitor is a 20-inch monitor. That was $90. So what nice size TV that would meet your standard of nice, man of the people, Bill Maher? What nice size TV is $60?
Yeah, I just went on Amazon, which, you know, nothing's going to be cheaper than that. All right, so the cheapest thing I see here is a Fire TV. So they're trying to get you into their ecosystem. That's why it's cheap. 32 inches, $129.99.
Yeah,
that's the cheapest TV. That's the bottom. Oh no, hang on. There's a 24-inch for $89.99.
Okay.
Also a Fire TV.
But the 24-inch, that's like a glorified computer monitor. It's not a nice TV
Basically.
that you could put in a living room for $60.
No. I'm saying, all right, so I've scrolled down far enough. I feel like I can say with confidence that's as cheap as it gets. And then it's a Fire TV, so that's why it's cheap. It's just getting a Fire tablet because they're trying to get you into their ancillary services.
Yeah. It sounds like Bill Maher hasn't been shopping for anything in a while. Sounds like a guy who hasn't done his own shopping in at least 22 years.
We've got next day shipping stuff.
Sorry, go ahead.
I don't see how you could think $60.
Yeah, how could you think $60?
Like, how could you think that?
Doesn't he have a writing team? Doesn't he have a writing team that does these new rules? Like, don't you look it over
I would
and say,
imagine.
Hey, Bill, you can't get a nice TV for $60.
Like, I don't know how you could really think that. I could like, if I were gonna guess these days what's the cheapest TV that's like a reasonable TV, I would guess about that. I would guess like 150 to 250 is the cheapest that something you could live with would be.
That you could put in a living room, like if if you're a family and you want to put a TV in a living room that you could see from a reasonable distance, you're going to need at least a 40-inch, really, which is at least $250. I mean, you really can't get it for less than $250. But, $60 in Bill Maher's world. We have next day shipping.
Crust pizza, legal weed.
Well, that's good. I have to say.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you can't even talk about that.
No. I mean,
yes, TV
when you're
now
right, you're right.
Costs $60. Who gets credit for that? We've got next day shipping.
China?
Stuffed crust pizza, legal weed, GPS, and
Southeast
porn on the
Asia?
phone. Cheer the fuck up.
Well, let me tell you something, Bill. There's this thing called imperialism. And that is where people in impoverished countries work for slave wages so that we can have cheap goods. That's who we can thank for that. You're welcome.
Yeah. And thanks to predatory capitalism, even those aren't so cheap anymore because they're being marked up by the American corporations who are making record profits, but we're still paying a lot for TVs. Oh, quite a bit for TVs.
Stop acting like life in America in 2024 is unbearable. Biden's ratings are in the toilet, not because he's doing such a bad job, but because a lot of Americans like to live with their head in the toilet.
Oh, wow.
Let's look at the numbers.
Let's look at it. Okay, then he goes.
Wow. What a fucking asshole. You know how much of an asshole Bill Maher is? His own agency did not invite him to their Oscar party, and he fired them. He was with CAA for 20 years. The CEO had one of those big Hollywood parties, Margot Robbie, and anyone is there. And he doesn't invite one of his most high-profile clients. Now, I have to say, knowing what I know about Hollywood, there is no way that was an oversight by an assistant. That is how big a fucking asshole he is, that they intentionally insulted him like that. Knowing that he'd probably fire them.
Yeah.
They have to know, from everything we know about Bill Maher, he's the kind of guy he's going to fire your agency for that.
Absolute
he's got that kind of small dick ego. Exactly.
Yeah.
What a fucking dick, man. He's just getting worse as time goes on.
No, he's just getting worse. Yeah, absolutely. Worse.
These monologues are just more and more let them eat cake.
Let them exactly.
I was just I am in I believe the greatest concentration of wealth for any city in America. Like you have regions like Silicon Valley, but for a city, I believe New York has the most wealth concentration in one place.
I believe so. Yes.
And I mean, this place is falling apart. And I was just in New Orleans, and dude, I did a video in the nice neighborhood talking about how everything's become homogenized. And some of our European people responded, "What's up with those streets? What is that, the third world?" And that was Magazine Street. That was the nice neighborhood.
Sorry, hold on. My boy just lost his first tooth. Look at that.
Just
Here,
now?
You want to come? Can he come on here? Here, you want to say hello?
Hi.
Hi. You just said hi. Sawyer said hi, Russell. Look, this is my boy Beckett. He just lost his first tooth. It's been dangling.
Well, you know what we're going to give you? We're going to give you a $60 TV.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, Russell said the Tooth Fairy is going to bring you a $60 television set because that's what we're talking about. Sorry, don't lean on there, please. All right. Hey, good job, buddy. Hey, give this to Mommy so she'll give it to the Tooth Fairy. All right.
All right.
That was good. Did it hurt?
No. I just turned it around when it fell out.
All right, beautiful.
It fell out when he was, can you hear me?
Yeah.
It fell out when he was pooping, so I thought it was going to fall in the toilet, but thank you.
Oh, all right. There you go. Good job. Well, we need that for the Tooth Fairy. Otherwise, she doesn't pay you. All right, Penny, you got to walk around. Yep. Beautiful. No, it's all right. You're good. No, don't want to miss that. That's a big milestone. First one. Yeah, that tooth has been hanging on forever. So, yeah. Okay, now that he's gone, I was afraid that was going to happen because now after the show, I'm going to have to run out to an ATM because I don't have any cash in the house. I got to get a Tooth Fairy a couple of dollars. Anyway, what were we talking about? Yeah, right. 3 days growth. Yeah, that was my guy Beckett. That was my youngest. He's 1 minute younger than my eldest there. Anyway, back to the. Oh yeah, so this kind of dovetail. Okay, so speaking of prices being out of whack, so I was telling you I had a story about.
Well, you got to give this kid for the fucking Tooth Fairy now. It's like $23.
Yeah, I know. It's
when we were kids, they gave you a quarter.
Yeah. Okay, listen, it's not that bad in America, okay? You give your kids $8 for the Tooth Fairy, okay? Suck it up. Cheer the fuck up. But no, I was out the other day running errands. It was Thursday. It was after the show. We did the show at 9. I didn't have anything to eat before the show, so I was starving. So I'm out running errands. I'm trying to get a quick bite to eat. There's this taco place that everybody says is really good. They want $4 a taco. You know, it's like an authentic Mexican taco, so they're small. And you know,
so that's like a real taco.
You know what? For $4, I don't.
You know what I just found out?
Yeah.
Taco Bell. Did you know sand is used as a filler in their beef?
No, but it makes sense now that you mention it.
Silicate.
Yeah, there's something in there that's a filler. It's not just beef. Exactly. No, this was like a real taco place.
No, they're not allowed to call it beef. They have to call it taco filling because it's not
really?
beef. It's about 36% beef.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense that they can't call it beef then if it's not at least half beef. But anyway, they want $4 for a little taco, and you know, it was lunchtime. I'm running errands. I feel more comfortable at $3.50. At $3.50, I feel comfortable because then you can get 3 for $10.50. All right, but I didn't want to spend $4 on a taco.
You just need $3.50.
Yeah, exactly. I would have gotten like a gordita that was like $8. That's a good price for lunch, but they didn't have those. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna run to Subway across the street. It's on the way. I haven't been to Subway in years, because in Newburgh where I lived, there are great sandwich places all around. Up here, it's funny. Up here, way upstate New York, you can get decent pizza if you seek it out. You can get decent food if you seek it out. The food's not much worse here than it is down closer to the city. It's a little bit, but you can still find good stuff. There's no real good like Italian sandwich place here. So I figure, all right, let me run into Subway real quick. Right, this is the $5 footlong. 10 years ago, you get a footlong sandwich for $5. Half a sandwich, 6-inch sandwich, a bag of chips, which is 2/3 empty now because they're not filling them anymore, and a fountain drink, $13 fucking dollars at Subway. Subway,
it's insane. It's insane.
$13. I got half a sandwich, chips, and a cup of soda. $13. You take a family of four. Family of four Subway now. That's $60. Now that's the cost of a TV. It's like buying a TV, taking a family to Subway.
Okay, so I don't want to say this is absolutely true. I've mentioned at least half the time I wake up in the middle of the night, and the thing that will put me back to sleep are video essays. So I was watching one last night during my middle of the night wake up where the guy was talking about McDonald's, and he said, I want to follow up and research this. He said that the CEO of McDonald's said that people making under $45,000 a year aren't coming to McDonald's anymore. Which
I believe it.
We were talking about this yesterday. Like $18 to go to McDonald's?
No, it's insane.
Who the fuck can pay that? Like
burger, fries, drink, $14 for like a Big Mac meal or some shit like that.
See, and it's not like, look, it's not like, at least in New York, at least where I live, it's not like general restaurant prices have gone up an equivalent amount. So if I'm going to spend $18 at McDonald's, why would I not spend $18 and get real food?
Yeah, exactly.
Or even 22. Let's say it's going to be 22 for me to have real food. Why would I spend 18 at McDonald's?
No, at the diner in town, you can get a gyro and fries for $12.
Right.
And it's pretty good.
Right.
At McDonald's, you got a Big Mac, fries, and a Coke. That's the thing. The soda. The soda's where they make the money, and the soda's where you get screwed because they throw in the soda at the fast food. But if you just drink water, which you should be drinking anyway.
But I never get the soda.
That's what I mean.
I hate that shit.
Right. So then you're better off with water anyway. At this point, it's cheaper to get real food than it is.
No, but it's still crazy expensive.
Yeah.
But before October 7th, when I would go to McDonald's, like post-COVID, right, but pre-October 7th, yeah, man, I think the last time I went in there, usually what I will get will be a double quarter pounder with cheese, a medium fries, and 2 apple pies. And last time I did that, I think it cost me about $17, $18.
Yeah.
No drink.
So so Bill Maher is saying that for the price of 3 McDonald's meals, Russell style, you can get a TV. I mean, what are you even talking about? Like the guy, like, how do you even feel confident commenting on these things? And where is your writing team? Where is your writing staff saying, actually, this is totally inaccurate and out of touch? You're going to look like a giant asshole if you say this on the air. It's going to cost you the invite to the Oscar party, and then you're going to be without an agent.
Well, this is the problem with being an asshole. His team is probably afraid to tell him.
They're afraid of him. Yeah, he's a tyrant.
They're probably afraid to tell him, hey, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Or, he hires yes men who think like he does.
Right.
You're talking about the writing team that produced the interior of the country envies us and want to be like us. We have Wolfgang Puck and they have Chef Boyardee. There's the writing team that came up with that monologue.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well put. Christos, AOC did the same to Max Blue a couple years back, and Jimmy exposed it. You're talking about the was it the Biden speech or the segment before? This was at 7:37. So I don't remember the video that you're talking about, but thank you for that contribution. Stephen Hayes, credit Jack Klugman. Even Reinhard Heydrich wasn't as depraved as Israel. Oh, that's a Klugman. Thank you, Stephen Hayes. That's one of those old Klugman quotes. AOB, Russell, why do you say not to exercise every day? I've been doing now for 2 years and feel really good.
All right. So apparently you must be new to the show and you don't realize I'm a fucking idiot. You probably do it in a smart way that's sustainable. I was pounding out 12-mile bike rides, then going to the gym for weights and doing an elliptical, and then going and walking 5 to 10 miles for my job a day, 7 days a week. You do that, my friend, you're going to destroy your joints.
Even as a young man, you can't go that hard. But as a young person, you could go a little harder. But as you get a little older, you got to take rest days, recoup days. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they say as training, I mean, it depends on what you're trying to do. It depends on how hard you go. Like like yoga practitioners can go every day.
Right.
But if you're pumping iron, you can't do that shit every day. Like you cannot push your body
weight training, you
to
have
a
to rest.
limit every day.
Yeah, weight training, it's actually important that you rest your muscles because your muscles build as they recover.
I was doing everything, man. I was doing weight training.
Yeah.
I was doing weight training, biking, yoga. I really like the elliptical, which on top of it, that's part of what fucked me up. A lot of the exercise I like involve the same body part, biking, elliptical, and then you're a tour guide. You're constantly hitting the knees and the hips.
Yeah,
So
indeed.
So yeah. So no, it's not by definition you can't do it, but you have to be smart about how you do it.
Yeah, and you have to take days where you go hard and days where you don't, because especially as you get older. I don't know how old you are, Super Chatter, but yeah, as you get a little older, your body needs a little bit of recoup time.
It's that too, honestly. And it happens like this. I've said this during the pandemic, man. There was like a flip. Like I was always able to push my body that hard, and then all of a sudden, I paid a price for it. I never really did before. Although I will say this, I quit smoking. So it took a certain stamina limit off how hard I could go. I couldn't have worked out that hard until I quit smoking. I've been smoking for 27 years, so it probably kept me from hurting myself. But then when I quit smoking, I went overboard.
FU, I didn't go to church today, so here's my offering. Thank you, FU. Appreciate that. Kenman, worst thing about St. Paddy's Day is Bono. Well, I hope you enjoyed my tunes that I put in there. No U2 in the intro. We went with some traditional Irish music. Marissa Labonte, thanks for the $1. 95 Artifact, Bill Maher, funded by Big TV. Yes, that's why, because he's on HBO. Still on TV. Marissa Labonte again. Great show, guys. Russ, what's on your coffee mug?
Oh, well, this is, along with my shirts, I take great pride in my mugs, so I'm glad you asked. So if you've ever been to New Orleans, if in the French Quarter, they have these plaques on the streets telling you what the streets were called under the Spanish occupation.
That's cool. Nice.
So St. Louis Street was Calle de San Luis.
Excellent. Inclusion is a national security imperative, says Bonzo Beans. Oh, by the way, Bonzo Beans, you're a mod on Rumble. So if the guy comes in trying to hawk the Mel Gibson movie, you can mute and block people now. So the rule is on Rumble, obviously free speech zone, except obvious spamming, malicious trolling. That's basically it. But you have the power now, Bonzo Beans. You are now the man over on Rumble. Jezzy, you're a mod there if you want to be. Kinky, you're a mod there. And Rebel, you're a mod there as well. I did add the mods. The judge is here. Thanks, Judge. Appreciate that. Okay, let's go to a segment that we are not necessarily uniquely qualified to do, but especially qualified to do, given this fact that Russ and I are both men of the theater, and that Russell saw the London West End production of Henrik Ibsen's Enemy of the People. We mentioned how that version of it was really a critique of liberalism and the liberal class, and Russell had his suspicions about this one. So let's go to the video, because the Broadway production starring Jeremy Strong and Michael Imperioli of Sopranos fame, obviously, just started previews, and here is an Extinction Rebellion protester interrupting the show.
I object to the silencing of scientists. I am very, very sorry to interrupt your night and this amazing performance. I am a theater artist. I work in this theater professionally.
Not anymore, you're not.
You're not anymore. Blacklisted now.
Good job. Let's go. We got somebody. Where's the house manager? They do not have the floor. The oceans are acidifying. The oceans are rising. It will swallow this city and this entire theater.
So there's Michael Imperioli.
On the line, because we are not doing anything.
Now, he plays the antagonist in the play, which is kind of relevant.
Broadway will not survive on a dead planet.
All right, so there he is being escorted out. The Guardian did a little write-up of this. This is brief. No theater on a dead planet. Climate activists disrupt Jeremy Strong Broadway show. Climate change protesters disrupted a preview showing of Jeremy Strong's new Broadway show on Thursday before being forcibly ejected. During a revival of Henrik Ibsen's An Enemy of the People, led by the Succession actor, activists brought the production to a stop during a major scene. I object to the silencing of scientists, a protester said to the audience, which, for those who did not catch our previous segment about this, An Enemy of the People is about the very silencing of a scientist who realizes that a spa, which is basically the industry of a local town, is toxic, and he tries to go to the press, and they ruin him for it because they would rather the truth be suppressed so that they can keep making money off of their town. Anyway,
he thinks they're going to celebrate him as a hero.
Right. Instead, they ruin him. Exactly. I am very, very sorry to interrupt your night and this amazing performance. He then proceeded to warn about impending environmental chaos as members of the cast, including the Sopranos star Michael Imperioli, pushed back. "You need to leave. You're interrupting," he said, while Strong stayed in character, saying, "Let him speak." "No theater on a dead planet," the activist shouted as he was being escorted to the exit. Responsibility to the protest has been claimed by a group known as Extinction Rebellion NYC, with a later post on X sharing the video. The group defines itself as a global, nonpartisan climate justice movement using nonviolent direct action to pressure governments to act now. "This play highlights that climate activists are not the enemy," said the group's spokesperson Laura Robinson. "But why are we being treated as such? Nonviolent climate protesters are being charged as if they have committed very violent acts. This is not sustainable and this is unacceptable." An Enemy of the People, which opens officially on Broadway next week, tells the story of Dr. Thomas Stockman, who finds harmful bacteria in the spas of a small town, but his attempts to make others aware turn him into a pariah. Another version of the play, which Russell saw, obviously starring Matt Smith, is currently playing in the West End. Imperioli, who plays Stockman's brother and mayor of the town, later made reference to the incident on Instagram. He wrote, "Tonight was wild. No hard feelings, Extinction Rebellion crew. Michael is on your side, but Mayor Stockman is not." And then here is the Instagram post that he put on there to that effect. The article concludes, "Theater as usual won't be possible on a planet in which humanity fails to keep global warming below 2 degrees Celsius, a statement from the group read. "If activists don't disrupt these shows, dangerous weather will make it impossible for the show to go on." So I just want to show a little bit of this with the sound off. So one of the things that I found curious about this is that even before the guy interrupts, the house lights are up, which means they're clearly trying to simulate an interactive experience. Obviously, the production you saw, Russell, there was a talkback portion.
Well,
so they actually
they
made it interactive. Yeah.
Yeah, So this is interesting. Because it looks like they went halfway towards what the London show did and tried to get the effect of a town hall. Right. But no, the London show did a town hall. They handed out microphones to the audience without knowing what anyone was going to say. It wasn't vetted.
Right.
And that was like half the show. That was really half the show, was like that town hall. You had the first act led into the town hall. And then the second act just opened with him making that great speech about the liberal class that I applauded. And he stayed right in character and rolled with that. Matt Smith. And then, it became a talkback. And then they just kind of did a little epilogue of his life being just completely destroyed. And that was it. That was the play.
Yeah. So we are going to try and send Russell to see this show, because Russell had certain speculations about the interpretation of the material that would be permissible, shall we say, in New York City to a very upper class lib crowd, which to their defense in London, I mean, it's, I would imagine, a similar demographic there, although there's no shit lib like a New York shit lib, really.
Well, not only that, they're just not as fucking stupid over there. They just aren't.
Right.
Their whole, just from the week I spent there, and I can remember this from other times that I've been there. There is a tendency of Americans to idealize the culture overseas, and I don't think I'm going too far to say, the level of political discourse is smarter. Sure, yes. Like if you think that all British culture is what you saw on Masterpiece Theater, you're going to be in for a rude fucking awakening. Yes, they have racism. Yes, they have ignorance. Yes, they have poverty. But it's just not at the same level, man. It's just not. It just isn't. The conversation is just not as dumb. It's a better educated population.
Right. So we'll have to reserve final judgment on a segment like this because we do want Russell to go and actually see that show so that we could sort of compare it to the West End version. But yeah, the video,
like you do that town hall in a Broadway venue, it would be interesting. It would be very interesting.
I would be very surprised if they actually.
Oh no, they're not doing it. I'm just saying, how would that go? And hey, you showed that crowd, and this is part of what I wrote that whole article breaking down how, kind of the decline of the arts culture. But frankly, it was, the audiences were always a problem for me. The first time I went to see Suzuki, I went to see a show directed by Suzuki. And for those of you who are not theater people, he's this very famous theorist director from Japan. And I looked around at the audience, and it's just like this audience, man. It's almost entirely white people. And it's not, I'm not saying that to point out the race. It's the class. It's the class, because they're not just white people. They're fucking white people with money.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I remember, I was very into directing very experimental kind of things. That's why I was at a Suzuki show as a college student. And it was him doing King Lear. Like, dude, I watched King Lear in fucking Japanese to watch this guy's technique and approach. And I looked around at the audience. I said, is this what you want? Like to be applauded by these people? Right. Like that's the best you'll ever do if you go in that direction.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. No, I feel you. So like I said, we're going to try and get Russell in there, because the fact that, like, if you watch the video of that segment, it kind of looks like they're, being very hostile. But then Michael Imperioli, and who knows, maybe this was just to save face, said, hey, I was just staying in character. Good on you. Who knows? Who knows what the truth
obviously
is.
That's
it's
how they handle.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's how they handled the town hall in London. Like they would play off the people in the audience in their characters. But yeah, I think I might be able to get a press pass for this. So I'm going to inquire, and hopefully they'll give it to me.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Folks, speaking of amazing, you know who's amazing? Our patrons are amazing. You can go and become an amazing person at patreon.com/DoDissidents, where you can support this program. We've had a bunch of you guys sign up. Oh shit, I got Jake tonight. Oh, I apologize. So I forgot we had Jake on the show tonight, so I didn't send you the names to add to the scroll. So my deepest apologies, folks. I will send those to Jake after the show so we get you on by Tuesday. I apologize about that, because we did have some new signups, and it just slipped my mind, so that's my fault. I'll take the L on that one. But perks of becoming a member mean you do get to have your name up in lights if I remember to send Jake the information on time. You also get call-in access to our post-Sunday night show Q&As, which are over on Rumble. We are doing a Q&A tonight over on Rumble, and so we're going to switch to Rumble in a little while. Still got plenty of show here as well, and you get access to 2 bonus streams per month. So the first one, Russell, we decided is going to be this Tuesday night, correct?
Yes.
So this Tuesday is a day-night doubleheader. We are doing the main show at 2 p.m. Eastern, and then we are going to do our Rumble exclusive patron-only stream at what did we say, 8 or 9? I forget what we said.
Yeah,
I think 8, right?
8, right? Yeah. Why do it at 9? Why torture people? Yeah, we got Nick's address.
We did. Yeah, I believe I did.
Yeah, man, that skull is yours, man.
That's yours. Dr. Nick Riviera, winner of Russell's New Orleans skull there. Indeed.
Hi, Dr. Nick.
You can also join our Substack. Perks apply across all platforms: Patreon, Substack, and Locals. Your support is the backbone of this program, so we thank you guys all for signing up. If you're watching over on Rumble, which we got 1,681 of you lovely people over on Rumble now, you can join our Locals by hitting that bright red join button underneath the video screen. Like I said, you get call-in access to our post-show weekly Q&As. You get your name up in lights here and access to 2 bonus streams per month, which are exclusive, uncensored, supporter-only live streams. And we're looking to hit the road again this campaign season, so our Give, Send, Go is open. If you would like to contribute to our Extra Projects Fund, which paid for last time my trip to New Hampshire for the primaries and Russell's trip to London to cover the Day X hearing. We got a lot on the agenda for this campaign season. We are planning a trip to Chicago, where our friend Kit Cabello, who's been rolling around the chat, I see you, Kit, there. Shout out to Kit. Is going to be covering the Democratic Convention. We are trying to get out there ourselves, so that is one project we are committed to doing with these funds. We are also looking to make a special trip to Dearborn, Michigan, during the home stretch of the campaign. So this will be post Labor Day
October.
sometime, probably September, October, going to Dearborn to interview Arab and Muslim voters who are boycotting the Biden ticket. Those are 2 projects. We're also looking to do some live shows. Live shows at theaters in New York. Maybe we can do one at a surrounding city if there is enough demand. But those require quite a bit of cash outlaid because you got to secure the space and things like that. So, Russell, do you have anything to add to our pitch here?
Yes, we want to do our live show in June. We're looking at mid-June right now. I was looking at the rates on theaters, and it's a reminder of why no one's doing theater anymore.
Right.
So when we do the live show, it is really not for profit. It is for love of the game because we ain't gonna make shit out of that.
No, we'll probably lose something on that.
Well, probably, but if you can help, it will be much more likely to happen because it's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, this is part of not to completely digress back into that, but this is part of why the scene sucks now because. Look, man, rich kids just usually don't make good artists. I'm not going to say there are not exceptions, but usually they're far too sheltered to do anything that really speaks to anyone outside their class. And you just wind up with this navel-gazing shit about ennui in the suburbs. And when you look at what theater space costs now in New York, man, I mean, who else can pay for that?
Yeah, no, it's prohibitively expensive. Who has that amount of money to just put down 2 months?
It's insane. If you wanted to, the theater we're looking at, if you wanted it for a week, cost you $5,000.
$5,000.
Can afford that.
It's a 50 fucking seat
grand.
theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
$5 fucking grand.
$1,000 for a week. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Exactly.
So if you do 6 shows, that's what? I mean, you got to basically, if you're you'd have to charge $50 a head. And nobody's going to pay $50 a head for an off-Broadway
and you got to pack
show.
it. And you got to pack it for the whole run.
Yeah. And you got to pack
very,
it for the
very
whole
few
run.
people can do.
And if you're paying your talent, forget about it. You'll never come anywhere near breaking even.
Which you have to now.
Yeah.
You have to now because they're like, fuck it, I'll go on YouTube.
Right, exactly.
I'm not getting paid. Why am I going to do this shit?
Yep.
So all that to say, please contribute if you want to see more projects, more fish out of water stories. Like, you know what? I lived in Chicago for a year and a half. If this happens, that will be the first time I've been back.
Yeah.
I have not been back to Chicago since like 1995.
Wow.
Was the last time I was in Chicago. That'll be weird, man. I'll go. That's where I learned to drive a horse and carriage. I'll be very curious, like if those stables are still there, if all that shit's still there.
So the link is givesendgo.com/do dissidents. The 2 projects that we are front burnering are obviously the DNC and the trip to Dearborn, Michigan, and the live shows. The Special Projects Fund goes to all of that. I think we proved ourselves men of our words over these past few months.
This ain't no bullshit van situation.
Yeah, we're not going to hire a team of reporters to go and do whatever they were supposed to do with TYT. I don't know whatever happened.
We said we'd get a van, and we have a van.
Yeah, we have a van. There you go. Look at that. Beautiful. So that's givesendgo.com/do dissidents if you are able to contribute and help us make that happen. Thank you all very much for your support. Thank you, Jake, for doing
Dr. Nick says they don't have the horses anymore, huh?
Oh, not in Chicago?
Fucking Kit would know.
Kit would know. Kenman, thanks for the 279. Maher and Godot should sing a duet of F the Poor. Yeah. That would be good. $2 towards your son's first haircut. Yeah, he hasn't gotten his haircut in a while. He likes long hair. He's into the long hair. My other guy has it a little shorter. Which is fortunate for people who have trouble telling them apart if they can't tell the hair difference. Because now one of them has long hair and one of them has shorter hair. But thank you for that. The WikiLeaks fan, I'm a dentist and a tooth fairy. This is for your child. Oh, thank you, WikiLeaks fan. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Hayes, if justice existed, Maher would be droned online in the middle of a show. Yeah, commercial message would say this is brought to you by Crest Toothpaste Eliminate Plaque. We do not condone violence of any kind.
No, we do not.
Thank you for the joke. If a gift from the tooth demon, there you go, Scott George. Thank you. Let me see here. Bill Maher, Keith Olbermann, Rob Reiner, and 2 more contestants should participate in a recreation of Monty Python's Upper Class Twit of the Year. It's funny, Bill Maher just had John Cleese on his podcast on his Club Random thing. I didn't watch it, but he just had him on.
Oh, so all right. So it's recent.
What's that?
2021.
Oh, they got bans recently. Okay.
Wow.
Interesting. All right. The People Infinite. A little money for Bennett's
All right. This
Fairy.
is going to be the most feminist thing I've ever said on this show. Learning to drive a carriage in Chicago gave me whole loads of respect for how tough women can be if you let them. That shit was all run by women out there. It was all women.
Interesting.
Man. And when when shit had to be done that was really squeamish, it was the women, man. The men were all like, I can't do that. I can't do that. I learned how to drive horses from women. And it was dangerous. It was out there. It was really dangerous because it's so cold and windy. That's exactly the kind of thing that those kinds of draft horses, they're really bred for cold weather. It fires them up and it makes them really jumpy. Like my first night training, I wound up having to help pick up a carriage off the road from an accident.
Oh, wow.
But those were because they were from like farms in the surrounding area. They were from like farm country around Chicago. They were tough, man. They were like freaking frontier women.
Interesting. Yeah, well, it's the Midwest. Little money for Bennett's Tooth Fairy, People Infinite. I can't put this on the screen because you have a rough four-letter word there that I don't think is permissible here. So embarrassed that I used to watch Maher. What a see you next Tuesday. Can't wait to see Destiny's Obliteration. That's coming up. Love the show as usual. Thank you, People Infinite. Barbara Howard, thanks for the $20. It's very kind of you. My oldest son practiced entrepreneurship by posting a handwritten note on his bed after losing another tooth, reading $5, please. Tough market for that tooth fairy. Yeah, wow. So he actually named his price. That's interesting.
Wow.
I'm going to have to go to an ATM. I should have done that today because I could tell that tooth was coming out. Old Stoner saying poverty is good for your figure, Russ. No restaurant food, no junk food. Everything you cook in batches and freeze. Oh, I'm not that poor. I'm quite privileged. Disregard my comment. Thank you, Old Stoner. Oops, sorry. El Jefe, thanks for the $20. That's kind of you. Just lost a friend of 43 years because I support Palestine. What a world. Yeah, that's rough. Like I said, I am not looking forward to our virtual Passover Seder this year. I can tell you that. Because I know some of their opinions. And I won't start anything, but if they do,
Hang on, it's going to be virtual?
Yeah, it's virtual. Because we're all spread out.
So at least nobody can throw the Manischewitz in anyone's face.
No, it's not gonna be that.
It's not going to degenerate.
But in a way that makes it more combustible because the stakes are lower. Like you're less likely to start shit in person than you are online. Why do you think we do this for a living? Right?
Yeah.
Roseanne.
That's the downside to doing live shows.
Yes,
I'm like, how many people have I told to go fuck their mothers?
Yeah, right. Yeah, you never know who's going to show up. Exactly. Rosanna Paravalicious, thanks for the $10. Everything is sweeter in U.S. than in Europe. Yeah, it's all that sugar. Indeed. M. Heinz, a very special leprechaun tooth fairy visiting the Weiss household tonight. That's right. First tooth loss on St. Patty's Day. Thanks for that. Appreciate you. Okay, let's move right along. All right, folks, this is the main event of the evening. I think it's safe to say Norm Finkelstein had a rendezvous with destiny. We will call this segment.
I mean, that is what you have to name this when you drop the podcast.
Oh, of course. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I put that in the thumbnail tonight. That's going to be the name of the audio podcast tomorrow. Norm and his friend Muin Rabini debated Destiny and Benny Morris on the topic of Israel-Palestine. It was a 5-hour debate hosted by Lex Friedman. I did watch the entire thing. And throughout that 5 hours...
5 hours?
5
wow.
hours. And as you'll see throughout that entire thing, Norm Finkelstein can't get Destiny's name exactly right. He keeps calling him something different several times throughout the show. Now, we're going to play you. Somebody posted on X, and I'll put this in the comment section. I'll find out who did this supercut, and I will post it in the comment or in the description of the clip, rather, because you should definitely give them a follow, because to go through 5 hours and cut together this supercut was pretty impressive work. So we're going to see a pretty hilarious montage of Norm dunking on Mr. Borelli, Bonelli, Fratelli, Morelli. He keeps calling it something different. So we're just going to do this first. But what I will say, as someone who watched the whole thing, Norm was actually quite patient.
You're insane, man.
I watched it. Well, I had it on in the background while I was doing other work. I didn't sit and intently stare at the screen for 5 hours. But Norm was very patient. He didn't really start getting annoyed until like 2.5 hours in. Like all of these insults that we're about to see are from the second half. So this was already 2.5 hours in. He didn't come in.
He was trying
guns
to be
blazing.
gracious.
Yeah, he was trying to be gracious, but you can only be gracious for so long. He didn't come in guns blazing, but here's how this went. This is pretty great stuff.
Your name, please?
Stephen Bonnell.
Okay. I don't think you understand politics.
You're very binary thinking when it comes to analyzing. Yes, binary.
Please, don't give me this postmodernism binary. Believe me, I'm a lot more literate than you, Mr. Borelli.
I'm going to believe the guy that wrote
You
the
read
stuff.
what Wikipedia said. It's called attaching value to words and not talking like a motor mouth.
That's not controversial.
Mr. Bonnell, please slow down the speech and attempt to listen.
Legal
you don't
standard.
Know what's the correct
I know absolutely.
Law. You
no,
haven't
Norm,
clue.
I absolutely.
You
do,
haven't
Norm.
the clue.
I absolutely.
I
do.
think,
but I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Believe it or not, Norm. Literally,
Mr.
you can
Borelli,
Google it. You can
Mr.
Google
Borelli,
it.
with all due respect, you're such a fantastic moron. It's terrifying. What are you talking about? It's so painful. It's so painful to listen to this idiocy. I will answer the question.
Pilots were out.
I will even answer
children.
And it was a, because that was a strike. That was a drone to kill Palestinian.
You want me to
today.
answer, or do you want your motor mouth to go? Hey, laugh! It's hilarious. The story is so funny. See, the problem, Mr. Morelli, is you don't know the English language. Please stop with your idiotic.
The vast majority of protesters who acted in a peaceful manner.
No, listen, talk fast. Talk fast.
I'm
So
just
people
trying to
think that you're coherent.
I'm just reading.
You got the months wrong. You got the months wrong. Aside from Wikipedia, can you tell me what your knowledge of the IDF is?
You can talk to people who work in the military.
What's your knowledge of the IDF? It's true.
Children.
It's true. I don't spend my nights on Wikipedia. I read books. Even the American judge, she must have been awful incompetent if she was unable to see the misrepresentations that Mr. Bonnell, based on his Wikipedia entry, was able to find.
So this is based on
Mr. Borelli,
Mr.
Mr. Borelli, please don't teach me about the English language.
Highly
Borelli,
special intent
I'm
to be
going to
convicted
ask you
of
again.
genocide. Yes.
Please stop displaying your imbecility.
Okay, I'm sorry if you think the declaration of the judge is imbecile.
Don't put on public display that you're a moron. At least have the self-possession to shut up. You know anything about how the UN system works?
If you
just throw out words. You hear binding,
Does
not
242
binding.
even?
It may be meaningless to you, Mr.
It was
Bonnell.
meaningless to everyone.
Mr. Bonnell, don't change the subject. If you don't know what you're talking about, at least have the humility. You talk about
how close
chapter
has
6.
242 gotten?
You don't know chapter
how close
6.
has 242
You don't
gotten
know
to the
chapter
Palestinians
6
to peace?
from tweet 5. You have no idea what you're talking about. It's just so embarrassing. At least have some humility. Between us, we've read maybe 10,000 books on the topic, and you've read 2 Wikipedia entries, and you start talking about chapter 6. Do you know what chapter 7 is? Destiny should talk about making money off
you're a
of
media blitz where
idiocy.
you go and talk. Only option is conflict.
Listen to this.
The only option is
Mr. Bonnell
combat.
is now an expert on Palestinian mentality.
Despite all of the international law.
Everybody, moving. You're contradicting.
Starting ground. I'm sorry. I can talk slow. You can watch YouTube video and slow it down to 0.5 speed if you don't understand what I'm saying.
Let me. There's a very lengthy history.
Mr. Burrell, at least I had a quote to cherry pick.
Great.
All you have is Wikipedia. You don't know what you're talking about.
It's the inner.
I'm not happy to say that.
Of course you are.
It's a. Mr. Bonnell, I don't think I've avoided any of your questions, except when they breached the threshold of complete imbecility.
You're about to tell the children.
He doesn't want to hear it. So
no,
boring.
because it's purchased.
It's so boring.
What gives you hope?
There is no hope.
Okay, all right. So this was hosted by Lex Friedman, I guess, that YouTube is obsessed with trying to get me to pay attention to.
Yep.
I swear, so when I put on my videos in the middle of the night, I fall asleep. That's the intention. and it always auto plays. I wake up to fucking Lex Friedman, like always. So people who say that he's an op, I'm inclined to believe you, because the way the algorithm should work, if you keep shutting it off,
right?
Shouldn't they stop giving it to you? It's not like I ever watch it, but they keep feeding me Lex Friedman.
Yeah. Well, he's got a lot of subscribers. He's got almost 4 million.
I don't understand it. He's fucking boring as shit. And when it comes to the subject of Ukraine, he's completely biased.
Right.
I saw him interviewing a CIA guy, basically pulling a Jim Carrey. So there's a chance. He just kept saying to the CIA guy, but hang on, what about the spirit of the Ukrainians? And the guy's like, yeah, well, Russia has this and that. But what if the Ukrainians do a rain dance? No, I don't think a rain dance is. Okay, what if Zelensky makes deal with devil? Okay, sure. Right. He just would not let it go. Which, if you're trying to do what he's trying to do, which seems to be not opinion,
right,
journalism, you don't do that. Like, if that's your lane, if you're a pontificator, fine. I think what's kind of amazing about these clips is, okay, Lex Friedman, whatever, man, I don't understand why he has a following, but he's experienced.
Right.
You throw this guy in with these three?
With these three, yeah.
Like, how did you think that was going to go? And in some ways, it is an indictment of the whole bread tube scene, because you put the average commentator on YouTube in a room with serious, knowledgeable academics, and they're going to get eaten alive.
Yes, and as you could see, Benny Morris, who was the pro-Israel debate partner of Destiny, even laughed at one point at Norm's digs, and Norm, throughout the 5-hour interview, would commend Benny Morris's writing. He said, I've read a lot of his books.
In the end, they all respect each other, and none of them respect this guy.
Right, exactly. He was just a fish out of water. How did he get a seat at that table? They couldn't find another scholar of the topic.
Right.
And look, Norm is a treasure. I love Norm. We've interviewed him 3 times, twice on this show, once on the Jimmy Dore show. And he's great to us. We get along great, and we even make each other laugh sometimes, which is fun. But he is definitely an academic in the sense that he could you definitely get the sense from him that he's the kind of guy who can constantly be asking himself, why am I here? Why am I talking to you? Like, if he doesn't think that you're in his league, he definitely registers that. Not that, I'm a college dropout. I'm not in his league. He never said that to me. But you could get the sense when you're talking to him that he's got that wheel turning in his head. Hey, who are these schmucks? Should I be talking to them? Not to say he's not a totally nice dude, he is. But when you put him in a situation with Destiny for 5 hours, yeah, that's going to come out. And it came out in about hour 3. He was a class act for the first couple hours, but after a while, he just couldn't take it anymore. And the real old school academic in him that's like, why do I have to talk to this guy? Who the fuck is this guy? He just couldn't keep that contained for 5 full hours.
Well, see, that's really part of my question here. And this actually comes up in a segment we're doing later. So I would really recommend that you folks hang on for the flip over to Rumble, because we're going to have a very interesting conversation. I'm going to bring Tusker on, and we're going to talk about a kind of rift among people who are broadly termed communists between Maoists and Marxists. Now, when I spoke to her,
versus Stalin, King Kong versus Godzilla.
Well, that's what it's going to. Well, this is going to be even better. It's going to be Mecha Godzilla versus Mothra.
Yeah, there you go.
That's how we're billing it. But I talked to her about it, and I said, "Hey, man, we started getting a little into theory the other day when we were talking about this, and I said, man, it's really not my wheelhouse. I'm going to bring on Tusker to talk about it. So we're going to talk about it through the lens of that insane New York article about why children should be allowed to do whatever they want regarding medicalizing themselves. I'll just say it that way. So we're going to talk about that through a Maoist versus Marxist lens. But you know what? You got to know your limitations, man. Like, I'm not going to go on about theory. It's not what I do. I'm going to bring somebody on who does. Tusker reads that shit all the time, constantly. So that's the person to talk to. I respect that. If I were asked to sit on this debate, I would decline it. I'm not qualified to be debating Norman Finkelstein on his life's work.
Exactly.
I would interview him about it. That's my job. That's what I do. Right. I platform somebody like Norm, but I'm not Norm. I'm not going to debate that guy. Even if he's wrong, I'm going to lose because he knows so much about it.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Not only would I never debate Norm, I mean, in this case, I think Norm is right on this issue,
that
so
subject.
there'd be no need to. But even Destiny's debate partner, Benny Morris, I wouldn't debate him on this because I would be afraid that because he's so much more knowledgeable, he would embarrass me and I would embarrass my cause.
You would hurt your position.
Hurt my position by getting a fool made out of me by a guy who just knows more. Right. So,
well, that's what you said about Galloway and Hitchens' debate.
Right.
You said just because Hitchens was so smooth, he came off as the winner.
Yeah, he's an Oxford debater.
Even though you agreed with Galloway.
Right, exactly. Right. If you lose an argument on points, it could make you look bad. It could make your side look bad. That's why I would hesitate to, or I would straight up decline. I'm like, no, I can't debate Benny Morris on this, right? Because, he knows more than me, which means he'll stump me, and then I will make my side of the argument look bad. Destiny, obviously, that never occurred to him. I mean, he approached it with just such pomposity. And that is what you could see got to Norm over time because, he takes this very seriously. His partner, Muin Rabini, was really an unsung hero of that debate because he was excellent too. He was really good. I encourage everybody to watch it. But yeah, there were three serious guys and then a fucking moron, as Norm said.
Well, this was like the movie about the actor who plays tough guys who thought he was tough.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So you talk like you know what you're talking about, and you convinced yourself that you actually do.
Right.
And then you got in a room with people who actually do, and you got exposed as the moron that you are.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. That's how that works. Handyman, thanks for the $10. Ron Paul warned everyone in America about the falling dollar, using a 1964 dime with silver as an example. I hope you smart people out there are enjoying the fruits of your Obama and Romney vote. Well, you got a Ron Paul supporter in the house. Thank you for that. Christos, AOC was doing a fake protest, and Max was trying to ask her about the people that got kicked out of their homes, and then AOC's people started to play music. Oh, that's what you're... Yes, I do remember that. That's when the child tax credit was expiring, right? And they were folding on the Build Back Better. I believe I do recall that, where they turned some music on there. Yes, thank you for that, Christos. Sparky, thanks for the $5 here. Make Israel Syria again. In those Ottoman Empire days, Levant Jews got along fine with their neighbors, whether Muslim, Christian, or otherwise. Thank you, Sparky.
Yeah, I always wonder what changed.
Yeah, right. What changed? Exactly.
What changed?
Let them eat $60 TVs. Thank you, John Franks. Great work, fellas. Thank you, Sparky. Appreciate that
Sparky.
very much. Mr. Keep Mom Safe, never heard of you in December. Thanks for the $5. Now you are my trusted mainstream medium. Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. Scott George, I like that. The protester is an oxygen thief. Yes, that's true. Said limited supply. Taking all the oxygen out of the room there. Let's see here. I didn't think, says Ricky Dicky 22 over on Rumble. Thanks for the $5. I didn't think I could have more admiration for Norm Finkelstein until I heard him call Destiny a fantastical moron. What a legend. Great show, guys.
It seems somehow
You're such a
appropriate.
fantastic moron.
I was just going to say the very first person we are friendly with and have interviewed who has gotten their own sound drop is Norm.
Yep. Let's hit that one more time.
You're such a fantastic moron.
And I am sure we are going to get a lot of use out of that.
We should have used it in the Bill Maher segment. Come to think of it, forgot we had it.
I didn't want to step on it.
Yeah, that's true. Franklin Fisher, I'm a libertarian monarchist. Do you all have any book recommendations for your ideology so I can learn and understand your positions better? Love y'all.
All right. So as I was saying, there's a whole school of theory, and maybe stick around for after the Rumble break. I am personally not a Marxist, but I'm sure a lot of sources will come up in that conversation. For me, Thomas Frank, what I would call the Thomas Frank trilogy, has definitely informed my politics a lot. We would love to have him on again, but Crazy Horse took care of that.
I'm sure he'd come on again. I think you've had a fine time.
I'm kidding. Taibbi's writing, obviously, I reference a lot. But these are more mainstream kind of things. I mean, I would say a core book, if you want two core books that would sum up how I see American politics, would be Listen Liberal and Hate Inc. I think between the two, you get a pretty good picture of where we are as a country. And actually, like I said, I mean, the whole Frank trilogy, but The People Know, which he recently released, I think is very helpful in understanding the tactics that they're using today against populism. They're the same exact tactics. It's uncanny. That's really what he illustrates in that book. You go back 100 years, it sounds like the same. It sounds like Morning Joe. They sound exactly the same. Anything that is popular is unwholesome and dirty and to be regarded with deep suspicion. The passions of the crowd, right? So those are things that have influenced me. I don't know. Keaton probably has his own stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the manual that comes with the George Foreman grill is pretty great. I think you should
that is
that.
really good. It changed my life.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, you see that style of cooking in a whole new light after you read that. No, I mean, look, if I had to give you one, I would say the Zinn book. I mean, that's a boring answer, but I mean, that's pretty basic 101 stuff. That's a great place to start. Howard Zinn, People's History. Particularly, as everybody says, that first chapter, just the first chapter about the European conquest of these lands and the told from the point of view of the natives. I mean, that will shape your perspective in a way that not too many other things will. It's a brutal read, but one I do recommend.
People here are recommending, and this is something I've been meaning to get around to because it's been recommended to me by a lot of people that I respect. Democracy for the Few, Michael Parenti.
Oh, okay. Yep, we see some
people.
But
I haven't read it.
We see some people mentioning that. Yeah, indeed.
A lot of people have suggested him to me.
Is the health spa named Baden Biden? Thank you, Stephen. Check pricing at Avenel Art Center for the live. Okay, that's interesting. In fact, I will screenshot that right now. I hope I didn't fuck something. There we go. Beautiful.
Oh,
Thank you, Janice. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we would like to get fucked a little less hard on the theater if we can. I mean, we have a space that we've dealt with many times before in the past, which is good because you know what you're getting from them. They've been around forever. But yeah, man, steep nowadays. But yes, thank you for that recommendation. We will, for sure, look into it. EJ Imagine, let's get that cowbell out. Looking forward to your live show. Thank you, EJ. Are you in New York? I always thought EJ Imagine was Ellen Jimerson because E-Jim, but I don't think so because Ellen has another Rumble account, I think. So I apologize if I had you confused for someone else, EJ, but thank you very much for that very generous donation. Snork Y2K, I like this. Have you filled out Biden's new IRS form to pay tax for your tooth fairy money? Yes. Yeah, good one. Yeah, I didn't think of that, Snork. Thank you for that. Jay Tolbert, 1995 was the year of the deadly heat wave. No wonder Russell left and never came back. Oh,
you know what? I was there for that. I always say, no, I was in Chicago. You can look it up. The year and a half I was there, they had the record cold, which for Chicago, that is no fucking joke. And they had the record heat. That 500 people died from the heat the summer I was in Chicago. Walking outside, it felt like you were standing in front of a pizza oven. When my lease was up, I left fucking skid marks. I kept saying the whole time I was there, I was like, why didn't the covered wagons just keep going? What were they here? The 3 nice weeks?
Right.
What weather could they have possibly experienced that made them drive stakes into the ground here?
Yeah, because it's brutal. I mean, the winters are totally brutal, obviously.
You got like 3 nice weeks in spring, and even that's not that great because you can always get that cold wind off the lake.
Right.
And then it's the hottest, stickiest summer you've ever experienced.
Yeah. I've never been in the dead of summer. I've been like a couple times in the fall, which is a nice time to go. And then right around this time, mid-March. And so not even the dead of winter, but cold enough to fucking knock you on your ass. I mean, cold is unbelievable.
No, when I asked people from there, all the other carriage drivers are from Chicago or the surrounding area. I asked them, how do you fucking live with this weather? Yeah. Living in Chicago just means being depressed 8 months a year. It's just part of life.
Just brutal. Ava, session 7, thanks to the $4.99 for Snagglepuss. Thank you, Ava. Folks, we are closing in on 50,000 YouTube subscribers, and we got almost 3,000 people in here now. So hit that subscribe button if you have not. Hit that follow button over on Rumble if you have not. Over 2,000 in the Rumble chat now. So we got about 5,000 people watching right now. That's wonderful to see. All right, we got a couple more segments. Let's move on here. The tide is turning, folks, and one way to know that is to compare and contrast the tone of Chuck Schumer now versus shortly after October 7th. Here's Chuck Schumer on the Senate floor advocating for what seems to me like regime change in Israel. Schumer turning on Netanyahu here.
Fourth major obstacle to peace is Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. As a lifelong supporter of Israel, it has become clear to me the Netanyahu coalition no longer fits the needs of Israel after October 7th. The world has changed radically since then, and the Israeli people are being stifled right now by a governing vision that is stuck in the past. 5 months into this conflict, it is clear that Israelis need to take stock of the situation and ask, must we change course? At this critical juncture, I believe a new election is the only way to allow for a healthy and open decision-making process about the future of Israel.
Wow. Now, Russell's made this point in the past, and it's a very good one, that a lot, and I paraphrased it when I tweeted this video out. A lot of liberal Zionists, quote unquote, liberal Zionists, like to use Netanyahu as a convenient scapegoat to sort of pin all of the crimes of Israel on this one guy, when obviously the point that Russell has made, I think is a good one, is that the founding of Israel made it inevitable that someone like Netanyahu would rise to the top and dominate their politics for decades. Netanyahu has been a prominent figure within Israel since the 80s. He was their representative to the UN starting in 1984. So he has actually been a prominent figure in Israel for the majority of its existence as a state. So obviously, he is the convenient fall guy for a guy like Chuck Schumer, who is a die-in-the-wool Zionist who's never going to come out and actually criticize the very conception of Israel, which was racist from day one. That being said, though, for him to come out and advocate for basically Netanyahu's ouster, pretty significant considering here he is just a few months ago at the March for Israel, which I like to call Hallapalooza. And Russell, what was the Million Murderer March? That's a good one too. The Million Murderer March. Here's Chuck Schumer just a few months ago.
Israel, we in America have your back. And we will not rest until you get all the assistance you need. We will not rest until you get the assistance you need. And today all of you are here showing we will not hide in the face of adversity in America and in Israel. Am Yisrael Chai. 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 The people Israel here in America and in Israel, the Jewish people will live forever.
Okay, now you look at him. Yeah, you look at him talking like that there versus just a few months later. I have a feeling if you had this same march today, you wouldn't get that kind of turnout because people are seeing,
people who went to that.
I think we fucked up a little bit here, which is what Caitlin Johnston warned you guys. I mean, she was talking in the context of social media, but she warned you, she said, watch what you say because in short time, it's not going to look good. So I think we have reached the phase of this war where, once again, the anti-war left proven right once again. It took a few years for us to be proven right in the public mind when we protested against the Iraq war. It took us a year and change with Ukraine. It took us about, 4 or 5 months now that this guy is not denouncing Israel, but he's denouncing Netanyahu. Quite the tonal shift from just a few months ago where he's leading these chants.
Well, something else I often say is people who are populist, and I won't even say left at this point. If you're just populist, which I would say part of that is being detached from corporate media brainwashing. It means having a Cassandra syndrome because you're always right 2 years ahead of when the media will admit what you were saying was true. And it's not because we're all geniuses. It's because we're not brainwashed. It's obvious. It's not hard to see where these things are going. Right. You don't have to be von Clausewitz to understand that Ukraine can't beat Russia over time. Ukraine, Russia, Ukraine, Russia. Doesn't take a brilliant strategic mind to figure that out.
Doesn't take a brilliant mind to say, hey, Iraq didn't do 9/11. Why would we invade there?
Right.
That doesn't make much sense. You were a traitor if you said that in fall of 2002, winter of 2003. And 3 years later, when the Republicans got clobbered in the midterms, it's because why? America's turned against the Iraq war. Shane, you couldn't think of that earlier. Could have saved a few 100,000 people from being incinerated.
And speaking of traitorous behavior, I've pointed this out in the past when there's the very infamous clip where Schumer, with great disdain, talks about how the opposition doesn't believe in the Torah. People who don't believe in Israel don't believe in the Torah. Now, I want you to imagine for a second an adherent to any other religion who is a public politician saying something like that in public. But they don't believe in Jesus. Oh, my God, the libs would be having a field day with that for a week. Oh, they'd be
right. Like, so no one should make those biblical claims.
Of course they'd be right. Yeah. If you, God forbid, you had Ilhan Omar or Rashida Tlaib say, but they don't believe in Allah. They don't believe in Muhammad. Can you imagine what they would do with that? So why is it okay for the fucking head of the Senate to be offering that kind of a religious basis and expressing absolute contempt for people who don't subscribe to his religious views? That's one point. Second point, can you imagine if the head of the Senate got up and started declaring their loyalty and fealty to any other country in this way? So people talk about dual loyalty with Israel. Well, maybe it's because the head of the Senate would go up there and in his political capacity, argue the case for absolute allegiance to Israel in a way that if you said some shit like that about any other country, people would say, well, aren't you supposed to be representing America? What if backing this country to the hilt is against American interests? Well, then where do your loyalties lie? So that, whenever you raise that, they say it's anti-Semitic. But hey, man, I think people would be saying the same thing if you absolutely committed the country in that way to loyalty to any country. We say it about Ukraine.
Well, Ukraine. Yes, exactly. I mean, they stopped just short of that with Ukraine. I mean, to the point where Biden starts the State of the Union speech with Ukraine. They unfurl the Ukrainian flag at the last couple. I think that was 2 State of the Unions ago, right at the start of the war, right? They unfurled that flag there. So, yeah, I mean, those are all certainly very much valid points and observations. And, with Ukraine, same thing. The same thing. Very similar case. Not quite with the zeal that he showed in that speech there, but yeah, just this baseline sort of assumption that we must prioritize this foreign war that we really have no stake in, except for the fact that we are allies. Right, and in Ukraine, you're not even a NATO ally, but we are treating them as if they are.
RFK said it. It's our aircraft carrier. That's our
stake. The aircraft carrier. Exactly. But the fact that he has come around this far just shows where reality has taken him. I mean, that's just where reality has led. And now, yeah, I'm not surprised that the Democrats want Netanyahu gone at this point, because the Democrats
want to scapegoat him.
Well, they want to scapegoat him, and also they have an election to win in 8 months that at this rate they're not going to, right? And so they need to get this guy under control yesterday. I mean, it's probably too late, but if they have any chance at this, they're going to have to stop him before he invades Rafah, because once he invades Rafah, that's it. At that point, you cannot claim that you saved anybody, and they're not going to be able to say that. And in my opinion, even if they do get him to call off the Rafah invasion, which they won't, it's still too late to justify supporting Joe Biden. 30,000 dead is just an obscene figure, even if it stops right now, which it won't. Even if the violence stops right now, they're saying if you stop the violence now, thousands of kids would still die of hunger in the coming weeks. And so that ship has sailed from my point of view. From the Democrats' point of view, they know they are bleeding support every day this goes on. And Netanyahu, yeah, he's an obstacle to peace. Sure. In the Democrats' eyes, he's also an obstacle to their own victory, because they know that unless they can either get this guy to cooperate or get rid of him, they're done. They're done. At that point, Donnie Bloodbath Trump takes over, as they say now.
Yeah, I thought it was a democracy.
Right.
So Netanyahu is the choice of the Israeli people, right? So he's not an aberration. He's a reflection of that society. You can't pin it on him. He didn't get installed in a coup.
Right.
He's elected multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
Multiple times across decades. So
like I said, he's been a prominent Israeli political figure for the majority of its history as a state.
Right. So you can't disown Netanyahu as an aberration. He is inherent to what the Israeli state is.
Yes, this is his third stint as PM. He keeps coming back.
Yep. 75% of Israelis in a poll support going into Rafah.
Yep.
Okay. He is not an aberration. He represents them. Right. It's a democracy. You keep saying it's a democracy.
Well,
own it.
Yep. Indeed. Ava, session 7 for Snugglepuss. Thank you, Ava. Appreciate that. Sparky, thanks for the $5. I'm Oliver Cromwell's 10 greats grandnephew. Is it wrong for me to celebrate St. Patrick's Day?
Yes.
There you go. Russell has smoked.
No. Man, I don't even have an opinion.
Thank you, Sparky. Appreciate that. Says Norm Finkelstein. Rules. Sparky, Tim Pool has driven hard in the paint for Israel since October 7th and often speaks fondly of destiny. Interesting. We might have to bring that up to him. Tease. I don't know if that's going to happen, but we've got we got a message from somebody. We've been talking
to people.
We've been talking to some people.
We've been talking to some people.
Might have to get fitted for a nice beanie.
West Virginia, Mount Mama.
They must keep it cold in that studio for him to wear the beanie and not sweat. I'm afraid if we did end up going on, I'd have to overdress because I would be in there. I'd be like, it's freezing in here because you insist on wearing that.
Have to bring like a hippie blanket.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Woodstock.
Show up in a blanket, a tea, just like freezing in there because he's got to have the beanie on. Well, that's it. Our invite's gone now if he sees this. PMC, thanks for the $1.99. A great win for Putin. Libs are in shambles. Yeah, Putin won by a landslide. 88% total victory. I'll be playing the role of Mecha Godzilla. There you go. Tusker as Mecha Godzilla. Coming up soon. We got one more segment, and then we're going to be switching over to Rumble for the final segment plus the Q&A. Stephen Hayes, Norman Finkelstein versus any Western political or military staff leader in the past 16 years during the opening interview in Nuremberg-style trials. Yeah, that did not disappoint. People have been looking forward to that for a long time. Miss Finkelstein's smackdown on Mr. Banal. Yeah, he should have called him Mr. Banal. Fratelli, Morelli. I love how he kept getting his name wrong.
Why would anyone watch that guy? For what reason?
Yeah, that is brutal. I don't know.
I never understand that kind of thing. Like, there are people in the space I don't like that I will concede their skills. Cenk Uygur is a perfect example. He's very good on the mic.
Right. He's got talent.
He's got chops. He's got talent. But sometimes I see people like that. I'm just like, how many subscribers?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
there are that many people who would want to watch that without being strapped to a chair with clamps on their eyelids?
Yeah, no.
Really?
Absolutely
Clockwork Orange
brutal.
style? Really? They do that by choice?
Yeah, no, just absolutely brutal indeed. Sparky, this is a quote. You submit this a lot. Every time anyone says Israel's our only friend in the Middle East, I can't help but think that before Israel, we had no enemies in the Middle East. U.S. missionary John Sheehan. I have that quote memorized now, Sparky, thanks to you. I've read it so many times. But thank you for showing that again. I don't think that Norm looked down on Destiny because of the difference in their formal education. It takes far less than 2.5 hours of conversation to tell if someone is an imbecile. Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, I definitely get the sense that, he was holding it. He was holding back for a while until he couldn't. The Peopled Infinite Lex Option Film Rights for Debate, 3 Men and a Moron. Yeah, there you go. Stop calling ultra-leftist French PDFs Maoists. All right, tune in for the Rumble. I don't know what to say.
Tune in
Just
for the
tune
Rumble.
Yeah.
There's somebody
Not
coming
getting
on who
into
can
that now.
address all your concerns.
Yeah, right. We have people who can address your concerns. Exactly.
We got people. We called in the big guns to put this to bed once and for all.
That's right. Omer Bajrovich, thanks, guys, for clarification on Fantastic Moron, but I have to give him credit for dyeing his hair to look more smarter. Yes, no blue hair on the Finkel. Yeah, imagine if he sat down with the blue hair. Norm would have been, what is going on here?
I thought you were the janitor. I thought you were here to clean up, to pour
It was so
water.
animated, man. Like, they could have done, I said, they could have shot that at a diner and forget it. They would have had another hour debate when the check came. There's so much crosstalk. You had 3 refills on the coffee. It says on the menu 1 refill per cup. You got 3 refills. That's why you were charged for the extra coffee. If you think I'm tipping 20% on your second coffee, you have another thing coming. I had a cup of tea, and they refilled it once halfway, and that's all I'm tipping on.
Clearly the hot dog was yours. I am a vegan, sir. I told you that when we sat down.
I told you that when we sat down. Yeah, exactly. That would have been a fun scene. Maybe next time.
I said on Jimmy's show that I was going to give him a call when I'm back in town. I am planning on going and having my dinner with Finkelstein.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great.
Yeah.
Well, he said he was up for it. He said, let me know. I'll be around.
Yeah. He even sang. He sang, I'll be there.
I'll be there. That's right.
Yeah.
He gave us a line of verse there.
Yeah.
Seb Griffiths, Destiny is just there as a diversity hire for hyper-opinionated millennial representation. Yeah.
They can't find better representation?
No better representation?
That's what I'm saying. There's plenty of millennials in this space. Like,
even
why the
Pac-Man
fuck would you watch
him.
that guy?
Even Pac-Man would be better than him, I think. Yeah. And that says something, man, if you're not as good as Pac-Man. Hey, guys, here's a little donation. Could you please promote my new vaccine? Yeah, send us the details. Just kidding. Thank you.
We'll pass it on to JD.
Yeah, exactly. We'll send it his way. P. Walker, the next Israeli PM is always worse than the last one, assuming Bibi is even pushed out. Good point. Do you think Destiny needed a booster seat? Thank you, Trying to Shill. Overthrow by Stephen Kinzer is a good book. Thank you, Will S. Appreciate that. Okay. Chuck Schumer, the world has changed. Damn you, TikTok. Yes, that's right. That's right. TikTok got to the world. Okay. Used to go to Chicago, says Sparky. Thank you for your generosity tonight, folks. A lot of super chats coming in. Used to go to Chicago from Atlanta on business a lot when it was in a heyday period in the late 80s and early 90s. I lucked out every time. It was beautiful weather. Lots of fun. It's a beautiful city. But the weather can be an obstacle, just like in New York. The weather can be an obstacle, too.
Yeah. Like, I have nothing bad from my experience, which, I mean, it's a lifetime ago, literally. I have nothing bad to say about Chicago as a town from my experience there. Just that weather was awful.
Yeah, it can be brutal. Only thing worse than a stiff breeze blowing up a horse's butt is a cold, stiff breeze. Yes, it must suck to be Destiny's Child. Oh, I see what you're saying there. I see what you did there with that band reference. Eileen Johnson. Okay, so Eileen Johnson. Yes, Johnson, designer of our cartoon logo T-shirt, which is now our Twitter logo. And yes, you're a New York based. So yes, we will see you at the live show. Thank you, Eileen. Appreciate that very much. Okay, let's go. We'll do a couple more of these, and then we'll do our final segment. Then we'll read out all our super chats, and then we'll switch over. Yep, Keaton People's History by Howard Zinn, Game Changer. Recommend Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins.
Yeah, I've read. I think we both read that, right? You've read that, Keaton? Huh?
I don't think I've ever read that, but I know what it is. That's a pretty famous one.
That's very good, yeah.
Yeah, you featured that in your book recommendation back in the day when we did this seldom enough for you
we
to
used
do
to
that.
do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Before we were doing
now
4
I
of these
would
a
run
week.
out of books in like a month.
Yeah, in a month you'd be out of books. Okay, here we go. Let's go to one more segment on the evening. We will get to all of our super chats before the Rumble switch. We'll read some more Rumble rants, but we'll get to the rest of the Rumble rants over on Rumble after the 5-minute intermission. But thank you all for being here. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button over on Rumble. 2172 over on Rumble. Hit that follow button. We got over 5,000 watching between all the platforms, so that's beautiful. By the time you watch this on the clip version, it'll be the day after St. Patrick's Day. But if you're watching live, as you lovely people are, it is St. Patty's Day, and we thought we should close out the YouTube portion of the show at least with this. Great Irish famine historians issue St. Patrick's Day statement on Gaza. A group of historians is urging Irish Americans to use their influence to avert a famine in Gaza as severe as the one faced by their Irish ancestors. The below letter was shared with Irish Central by signatory Dr. John Cunningham of the University of Galway today, Friday, March 15th. So this was from a couple days ago, just before the weekend. The Irish famine of 1846 to 1850 resonates throughout Irish and American history. During the famine and in its aftermath, 2 million or more survivors emigrated to the United States, determined to make better lives for themselves. Many nursed a sense of the injustice that had brought starvation to their families and neighbors, and passed this to their children and to later generations. Just last year, during his Irish visit, President Biden spoke to crowds in Dundalk and Ballina about the tragedy of the famine and its impact on his own family. As historians of the Irish famine, we are conscious of the horrific effects of mass starvation, including the trauma it leaves in its wake. Alert to the threat of famine throughout the world in our own time, we are alarmed at its imminence in Gaza and are strongly urging here that every possible step be taken to prevent it. As a descendant of great famine survivors himself, and with the capacity to influence the situation, President Biden carries a particular responsibility, especially as evidence of impending calamity emerges on a daily basis. The circumstances of Ibrahim al-Karabishi of Jabalia in northern Gaza, quote, reduced to scavenging for cheeseweed and grasses to boil for his children, carry uncanny echoes of the Irish famine. According to the Financial Times, Ibrahim is one of 300,000 in the north of Gaza who have faced a descent into hunger and starvation that has been precipitous. The family of Rami Tarazi, sheltering in the Greek Orthodox Church of St. Porphyrius, pardon me if I got that wrong, state that they rely mainly on bread made from barley and corn used for fodder. A kilogram of Egyptian rice costs $28, 10 times the norm, putting it out of reach for almost all families in the region. There are many other such stories. Alex DeWall of Tufts University, a world authority on famine, sketches the probable course of developments. Quote, young children and the elderly will starve first. Then it will be women who save their last scraps of food to try and keep their children alive longer. diseases like cholera will rampage through overcrowded camps. With 10 children reliably reported last week to have died of starvation at the Kamai Adwan Hospital, the process outlined by Dewal is already underway. More than with most famines, this is an avoidable catastrophe. With its restrictions on the distribution of food aid, water, and medical supplies, Israel is manifestly causing the famine as it wages war. In this, it is facilitated by the United States, which continues to arm Israel and give it political cover through the use of its veto at the United Nations Security Council. In recent U.S. announcements, there is a measure of recognition of the gravity of the situation in Gaza, but the practical measures which followed are inadequate. Airdrops will not stop famine, nor will the proposed maritime corridor between Cyprus and Gaza relieve starvation on the necessary scale. On this St. Patrick's Day in an election year, we are appealing to the conscience of Irish America. We ask Irish Americans in their capacity as citizens, as members of cultural and benevolent societies, as political leaders, to use their influence to avert a famine as severe as the one faced by their ancestors. To do this, it is necessary that the U.S. ceases arming Israel, that it puts pressure on Israel to halt its military action and lifts its blockade on Gaza, that it refrains from using its veto at the UN Security Council in relation to Palestine, that it restores funding to UNRWA, the agency best equipped to provide relief, that it acts as an honest broker to bring about an agreed political settlement between Israel and Palestine. Signed the following here. These are staff for the Irish Central. Once again, the Irish establishing themselves the most based people in Europe. So well done. You know, my mother-in-law's cat died yesterday. And so I had to explain to my boys, because they go over there almost every day just to hang out so I can get some work done here at home. And, we had to explain to them last night that the cat died and you wouldn't see it anymore. And, they took it well. And then they asked me today, they say, do people die? And I had to explain that to them. And it's a tough thing to explain to a kid. They took it pretty well. Maybe they have my morbid genes in them where it doesn't bother them as much as it would most kids. But the point is, you're talking about children who shouldn't even know what death is yet. My guys didn't even know what death was until yesterday. And you're talking about thousands of kids who are now facing this, who shouldn't even understand what they're facing. They shouldn't even understand what is at stake for them. And now on top of the bombing campaigns, you're going to have thousands more die from hunger. Hunger? You saw the price of rice. You saw what families are going through to feed kids. So, on St. Patty's Day, we thought it was good to read that because they're absolutely right, and good on them for writing that.
Well, this is why at this point, if you notice, except for the people who are on the grift, who are making a living off of this, who are in politics, most of the Zionists that you may know have fallen pretty silent publicly. Because they're starting to more and more realize what they're getting connected to, what they're going to be held to account for later. This will, and it's no comfort to these poor people suffering there in Gaza, this will go down in history as one of the great crimes against humanity in the history of civilization. And Israel will never be able to function as a state in the way it was able to before. What Brazil did, ejecting the ambassadors, is just the beginning. When those images, and certainly I hope there's a deus ex machina. I hope that them coming in with the food and the ports really solves the problem. I think having seen this for a few months, we have good reason to expect it's not going to solve the problem. And when the images of more and more starving children, as are beginning horrifically to come out now, are revealed to the world, Israel's just never going to be able to function again as a state in good standing. I mean, too many countries, particularly in the global South, in the BRICS countries, are going to break off diplomatic relations and end any kind of trade relationships with Israel. They're going to become very isolated on the world stage.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're already starting to see that here. When a guy like Chuck Schumer can say Netanyahu has to go, that's how you know that things are changing and that things have changed, which is what he said on the Senate floor. It's an amazing thing to hear. And
they are just desperately. I actually, believe it or not, I'm like 1 degree of separation away from the editor-in-chief of the Forward. For those of you who don't know, the Forward goes back to like the Eastern European immigrants, Jewish immigrants on the Lower East Side. It used to be in Yiddish. That was the most popular newspaper amongst immigrant Jews, and it still exists. I think it's only online now, though. And she wrote a whole article, and I read it, about how in Montclair the protesters were protesting against Israel. And, you know, she's equating, and she was one of the better writers I've read. Like she actually argued for their right to say these things, which is a lot better than what you see from a lot of them. But still making that equation that this is terrifying to the Jews in this community because the warnings of our grandparents, they love to hit that theme, that the grandparents warned us that this could come back. And we didn't believe them, and now it's a return of anti-Semitism. You know, what I would say is most people are being remarkably nuanced in that regard. I am not seeing a lot of people who don't understand that Israel and Judaism are not the same thing. I would think almost every person protesting Israel would assume all Jews are Zionists. And I'm seeing people being very careful to only critique Israel and not Jews on the
whole. When we had Matt Orfalea on, he showed us some of his footage because he was at the big protest in Washington.
Right.
And there were a couple instances of protesters who start saying something about Jews and they stop themselves and they go back and they say Israelis or Zionists, right? Yeah. And, you know, look, I think that is no small thanks to guys like Norm, you know, who have been on the air in some forum almost every night since October 7th. And that's not an exaggeration. He is doing some interview somewhere almost every single day for the past 5 or 6 months. All righty, let's take some super chats before we head out here. I just want to put this on the screen, folks. We got one more segment. Like I said, we're doing our Mao versus Stalin segment with our friend Tusker. Tusker, you have the call-in link because you're a patron, so feel free to call in anytime, and we will have you all queued up and ready to go when we make the switch. But for those of you who don't know where to find that stream, our producer...
I think we owe some 666s. I think we missed some.
Oh, all right. Go ahead.
Missed some for people.
Yeah, for the likes.
Yeah, we missed it, and on the Rumble, right?
Oh, okay.
We're supposed to, because we
did do the Rumble. Well, we had both at the same time at the top because we were above 666 on both forums. Folks, our friend and producer Jake created this very handy redirect link. So if you're watching on YouTube or Twitter now and you want to keep watching the show after a 5-minute intermission, go to dodissidents.com/rumble, and that takes you to this very stream where you can continue the evening with us in just a few minutes. But we're going to knock out some of these super chats.
It's going to be a very interesting segment that's been a long time coming. Because very often we're also going to address how a lot of times these conservative writers, when they see, because we're going to be looking at an article by Andrew Sullivan, when they see gender activism, they call it neo-Marxism, and much to the offense of a lot of actual Marxists. We're going to talk about that too.
Indeed. Sparky, thanks for the $5. I think that Chicago's geographic commerce location explains its existence as a big city. Well, yeah, it's the layover hub.
Yeah, I was joking. I'm just saying, man. When you live through a winter and a summer like that, you're like, motherfucker, why didn't they keep going to Oregon?
Yeah, right, exactly. I'm guilty, too, of not getting the full context of the speech. Talk about the Trump speech. Thanks, AD. I thought bloodbath was referring to a typical spa day for Hillary. Yeah, good. Thank you for that. Chucky Schumer trying to steer Israel policy like a barnacle.
We saw. He died.
Claiming to steer a ship. Thank you, Stephen Hayes. Thank you. All right, Russell, let's get Landrew's sound drop ready. We got a big one from Landrew. Look at this. Landrew coming through again. Thank you, Landrew. Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you very much. We got that?
I am Landrew.
Landrew is dead.
There you go.
Well, apparently not. He's here every week.
Yeah, give him the cowbell, too, for $100. Love Norman. Beautiful. Thank you for giving him a platform. Vote no on Genocide Joe. Thank you, Landrew. That's very kind of you. We appreciate that very much. Thank you all for your generosity tonight on these super chats. Thank you. That's super helpful.
I could have used a little more cowbell.
Yeah. Destiny was fighting 3 divisions above his weight class. Finello should work his way up. Maybe Jank or the Van Boys with Crystal as a moderator. Yeah, he could use some practice. Good point. Giovanni Polidori, thanks for the $4. Appreciate that. Sparky says Tim's show isn't bad for domestic issues, but especially for a former foreign correspondent, he's very ignorant of geopolitics. He's good for seeing what the normies think. Thank you, Sparky. Urging corrupt politicians of a rotting empire to do the right thing never works. Thank you, Kuznetsky Bassane. We'll take a few of these Rumble rants, and then we're going to take more of them on the other side. But calling for regime change in Israel, surely classic anti-Semitism. Hey, Chuck Schumer. Next, I'll be chanting from the river to the sea. Yeah, that'll be fun. That'll be the day. After seeing that Schumer speech, a genocide march, it reminded me of this line, the genocide march.
I like that.
So this is how democracy dies, with thunderous applause. Indeed. Old Stoner 1969, they are changing their tunes because they have facilitated a genocide and think a few words matter. Now history will not forget the West, and we will ask, how did we let it happen? Continue. Yep. Our governments made us all guilty of genocide. Never forgive them. Never let them forget our leaders, our monsters, and we let them be that. Yes. Yep. 100%. Thank you. Bonzo Beans. Dave Rubin didn't find any apartheid in Tel Aviv. Yeah, that's not a surprise.
Nor did Michael Rappaport.
That guy. Yeah,
he did that bit too.
You want a meeting of the minds?
He got an Israeli
Dave
tour
Rubin
guide.
Destiny debate. There you go.
Yeah. That's about comparable. That's a fair fight.
Yeah, there you go. That is a fair fight. That debate looked like when Spinks fought Tyson and got KO'd in the first round. Norman is still the reigning champ. Yes.
I'm just going to say there's some discussion in the chat about trying to get Bruce Dickinson as a guest. You know, I am going to see Maiden as a guest of Motley Jew.
There
He's
you
got
go.
a suite there at the Barclays Center. I will be going and hanging out in that suite, man.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, let's see here. Keep in mind,
maybe if he knows we're going to the show, he'll come on.
Yeah, well, who knows? Keep in mind, the UN said the deadliest year for Palestinians before 2023 was under Bennett Lapid government. Removing Bibi will not change that unless you move the Zionist Talmud mindset. Yeah, no, they're just, look, they need to look like they are holding him to account because of the fact that they're going to lose power in 8 months, and they are very, very desperate. Progressive Lefty, thanks for the $2. I would find it an honor to be called a moron by Norm. Yes, quite good. Adore Jimmy,
You're such a fantastic moron.
He took a fantastic. Well, there you go. We made your day. It was an honor. Check out Irish YouTuber Deirdre Linder, St. Patrick's Messagesto Genocide Joe. Thank you very much for that.
I think that was meant to say message to Genocide
Joe. Message to Genocide Joe. Beautiful. All right, folks, we have 2,600 of you guys waiting over on Rumble. We have one more segment with our friend Tusker, who is here in the booth right now. So we are going to head over there now. We are going to take a 5-minute intermission, and then we will continue the show on Rumble. That's dudissidents.com/Rumble. Please meet us there in about 5 minutes to continue the show. If you're not coming, and you should come, but if you're not coming, we'll see you again at Tuesday, 2 p.m. matinee, 2 p.m. this Tuesday. And patron show 8 p.m. that night. Doubleheader on Tuesday for our subscribers. A lot of you guys are hitting us up with super chats all night. if you're hitting us up with 5 super chats tonight, hit us up with 4 super chats tonight and become a member at patreon.com, and then you get all those extra perks for it, all right? But for now, we want you all to join us on Rumble at the following link, twodissidents.com/Rumble. We're going to take a 5-minute intermission, and we will see you over there for not just our final segment of the show, but for our patron call-in Q&A. All are welcome to watch. Our Patreon members, our paid Substack members, and our paid Locals members are welcome to call in. Callers, you can call in during the intermission. We're going to do one segment before we take calls, but you can start that queue right about now when we switch over to Rumble. Thank you guys very much for a great show. We will continue the show after a 5-minute break. Until then, be safe and be well.
Courage.
Please clap.